Chapter 14:23. Ling Xiao smiled and spat out the blood in his mouth. Then he picked up the girl lying there and walked outside. "Shang Guanhong, let's go." Ling Xiao knew that although there was still some sword intent here, it was just a remnant. It would not be long before the sword intent completely dissipated. What he needed to do now was to leave with Shang Guanhong as soon as possible to avoid any more trouble. Shang Guanhong hurried over to take her junior sister and left with Ling Xiao. Not long after they left, a group of people arrived at the Mansion of Spirits with great momentum. "Who killed our fifth brother?" A burly man appeared amidst the angry voice. His body was very broad. Standing there alone, he was probably 3 times the size of other people. The powerful aura emitted from his body was terrifying. "Sect Master Nan, you're late. That kid left less than an hour ago." The cultivators who had been threatened by Ling Xiao naturally stepped forward to help Nanjing, the leader of the Great Whale sect, pass on the message. "Good kid, you run pretty fast. But even if you run to the ends of the earth, it's useless. How dare you kill my brother? I'll skin you alive." Nanjing's face was ferocious as he roared, "Mobilize everyone to find this guy. Whoever finds him will be rewarded with 50,000 low-grade spirit stones. Whoever catches him will be rewarded with 100,000. Whoever kills him will be rewarded with 300,000. On the black volcano, Ling Xiao was walking step by step towards the crater of the volcano, which was known as the Forbidden Area. At this time, black smoke was billowing over there. It seemed that something had happened. Ling Xiao quickened his pace. Shang Guanhong had already brought her junior sister back to the Divine Phoenix continent. They were using Ling Xiao's Moonlight treasure ship. As for Ling Xiao himself, the last time he was in the City of Sin, he had snatched 2 airships from others. Although they were not as good as the Moonlight treasure ship, it should not be a problem for them to travel. In the same direction, a young girl was also traveling under the protection of a group of cultivators. The young girl was about 15 or 16 years old. She looked innocent and lively, like a canary that had not experienced the baptism of the world. The girl's name was Ji Mengmeng, a descendant of the Ji family of the sacred dynasty's Fairy Island. Only the disciples of the Ji family had the qualifications to be protected by so many cultivators. "Young miss, we can't go any further. Look, there are charred corpses all along the way. It's a horrible sight." Beside Ji Mengmeng, a middle-aged man in his 40s reminded, "The black volcano used to be a forbidden area. Now that it has changed, it has been listed as an extremely dangerous place by the island master. You must not go near it. Uncle Chin, there's no need to persuade him. You've seen my brother's appearance." In the past, he was regarded by his family as the future successor of the island lord. He was a first-rate genius. But now, after an inexplicable illness, he actually went crazy and even forgot his own martial arts. Legend has it that there is a type of black fire lotus growing near the black volcano, which is very effective against my brother's illness. My family doesn't care about him, but I can't. My brother used to love me the most. Ji Mengmeng shook her head. Although she was obviously afraid, her eyes were filled with determination and tenacity. "Young miss, there's something I don't know if I should say." The middle-aged man with the surname Chen sighed and said, "The Ji family is the owner of the sacred dynasty's Fairy Island. They are one of the most powerful forces in the entire Sky Dragon continent and Divine Phoenix continent. However, even the upper echelons can't get the black fire lotus. Do you think we can find it?" "Uncle Chin, I'm not stupid." Ji Mengmeng sighed and said, "It's not that they can't find it, but that they don't want to. There are people in the upper echelons who want my brother dead, but I can't let them do as they wish." "Who?" At this moment, the middle-aged man with the surname Chin suddenly roared and pointed the long saber in his hand towards the dense forest. Bang! Bang! After a strange sound, a person came out of the forest. It was a young man. He was handsome and looked quite dashing. "Sorry for scaring everyone. I'm just a passerby. Ling Xiao shrugged and smiled. His face was also bright and sunny. No one could compare him to the legendary devil child Ling Xiao. Stop giggling. Did you hear what we said? The middle-aged man with the surname Chen asked coldly. Well, I heard a little. You're going to look for the black fire lotus, right? In fact, I also want to look for this kind of thing. Ling Xiao nodded and said, the black fire lotus was a very precious medicinal material that could only be found by chance, because it only appeared 1 month before the eruption of the volcano. As for the reason, it was still hard to figure out. He was lucky this time. The black volcano that he had just encountered was obviously showing signs of a breakthrough. The black fire lotus could be used to refine all kinds of magical elixirs because it had a dual healing effect on the soul and the body, and the effect was very good. Ling Xiao did not forget Situ Hongyan, the only woman who survived Bibo Island. In the face of the sect and justice, the girl chose justice and chose to help him. Although it was a little silly, others could laugh at her. Ling Xiao could not. Ling Xiao really admired the girl named Situ Hongyan, so he had been trying to find a way to wake her up. He was lucky this time. Just as he was about to go to the black volcano to look for the immemorial Golden Crow's corpse, he received such important news. In fact, what Ling Xiao heard was not only about the black fire lotus. He also heard the words in the hearts of the guards. They were obviously from another force of the Ji family. Although they were protecting Ji Mingming, they were actually preparing to take the opportunity to destroy Ji Mingming's search for the black fire lotus. These people even viciously planned to kill Ji Mingming. In this way, the crazy genius of the Ji family would be crazy for the rest of her life. Of course, it would be a pity to just kill her. They hoped that before Ji Mingming died, they could have a taste of this Ji family's young miss. Among all of them, only the middle-aged man was loyal to Ji Mingming. Poor child! She was being protected by a pack of wolves. With Ling Xiao's strong soul power, he could naturally see through these people's thoughts. But he did not know Ji Mingming, so he did not want to meddle in other people's business. But if he ignored it, he would feel uncomfortable in his heart. So he smiled and said to Ji Mingming, "A beautiful girl like you, I'm afraid there will be many wolves eyeing you. Don't just look at the scenery in the distance. Also, be careful of the dangers under your feet. It would be bad if you fell into a trap set by a hunter." If the girl was smart, she would naturally understand the meaning of his words. If she did not understand, then she could only blame her bad luck. Hurry up and go on your way. This has nothing to do with you. One of the guards shouted at Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao smiled. He did not want to meddle in other people's business. But the girl looked at Ling Xiao thoughtfully and smiled. "Thank you for the reminder." With this word of thanks, Ling Xiao felt that he had earned back. At least he did not help the wrong person. Chapter 1424. Ling Xiao felt that Ji Mingming was a good girl. At the very least, she knew how to thank you when you helped her. Unlike some people who would say that you were meddling in other people's business when you helped them. That would be a pain in the ass. Goodbye. Ling Xiao cupped his hands and turned to leave. Seeing Ling Xiao's figure disappear in front, Ji Mingming said, "Uncle Chen, did you see that? There are still people who have the same idea as me. We can't fall behind him. Miss, you guys go at the back. I'll go in front to scout. Don't let that kid take the lead." A guard suddenly stood up and said, this person was a Ninth Heaven Sky realm martial artist. He did not think that a young man who looked like he was only 17 years old would be stronger than him. He already understood the meaning behind Ling Xiao's words just now, and a murderous intent arose in his heart. It was just that he could not do it in front of Ji Mingming. "That's fine, but don't get into a conflict with others," Ji Mingming reminded. "Don't worry, I'll be careful." The guard thought to himself, "Even if I kill him, I won't let Miss see it, lest you say that I'm ruthless." Ling Xiao did not know that someone wanted his life just because he said one sentence. In this deep forest, human life was as cheap as a dog's. Here, as long as you had the ability, you could kill. If you killed someone, you would not have to take responsibility. At this moment, Ling Xiao was speeding up towards the entrance of the black volcano. Since someone wanted to snatch something from him, he naturally had to hurry. The primordial golden crow was his main goal, but it was a little illusory after all. It was hard to say if he could find it. However, the black fire lotus was a real thing. He could feel the terrifying vitality of the plant that could grow in the lava. Hiss! The primitive forest was very similar to the dragon's submission mountain range. The deeper Ling Xiao went, the more danger he encountered. A giant python suddenly charged out from the bushes and pounced at Ling Xiao as fast as lightning. However, in the next moment, the giant python suddenly realized that its target had disappeared. He turned into an afterimage and quickly disappeared from its sight. The giant python let out an angry roar and returned to the bushes, waiting for the next intruder to arrive. As for the beasts here, Ling Xiao tried his best to avoid them. It wasn't because he was kind, nor was it because he was afraid. Instead, it was because the animals in the primitive jungle usually came in groups. If you killed one, you would probably attract a whole bunch of trouble. When the time came, would he still need to look for medicinal herbs? Should he still look for the immemorial golden crow? But sometimes there was no other way. The closer they were to the black volcano, the more beasts they would encounter. Ling Xiao was finally forced to make a move, but it was very clean. Wherever he went, he left behind the intact carcasses of the animals. If someone passed by, they would be surprised to find that almost all of these animals had been pierced in the vital parts, and a red the size of a little finger appeared on their bodies. Such an accurate attack was impossible without terrifying judgment and precise execution. Roar! A roar made Ling Xiao stop in his tracks instantly, and cold sweat appeared on his forehead. I've encountered a big guy. Standing in front of Ling Xiao was a huge black tiger. The black tiger was 4 to 5 meters tall, and its huge body was across the road. It raised its head high, not giving Ling Xiao any chance to rush over. In the next moment, the black tiger roared and pounced on Ling Xiao. The entire ground was trembling because of the black tiger's running. Ling Xiao took out Ice of Fury. This black tiger was the strongest beast he had encountered since he entered the mountain. It was probably equivalent to the cultivation of the first Grotto Heaven realm. It was just that its body was too huge and its strength was terrifying, so its explosive power was probably not inferior to the second or even third Grotto Heaven realm martial artists. Therefore, Ling Xiao still attached great importance to it. Although he didn't use any moves, he still took out Ice's Fury. He wanted to fight this guy to the death. Bang! The sound of a violent collision exploded on the mountain road. In the end, the black tiger was no match for Ling Xiao. Its huge body was sent flying by Ling Xiao's sword. It was just that Ling Xiao found this fellow interesting, so he didn't kill it ruthlessly, sparing this black tiger's little life. Of course, the black tiger wasn't the problem. The biggest problem was the sword that suddenly came from the dark. You've been following me for a long time. Finally can't hold it in anymore? Ling Xiao sneered. From the beginning, when he separated from Ji Mingming and the others, he felt that someone was following him. However, this guy had been waiting for an opportunity and didn't make a move. He didn't act rashly and alert the enemy. Now, the other party couldn't help but make a move. Black Tiger, kill him! Ling Xiao's figure suddenly flashed, dodging the sword that was thrusting towards him, and then roared. His terrifying soul power, coupled with his terrifying strength, caused the black tiger to instantly choose to obey him. Otherwise, it would probably die. This black tiger was quite smart. Pa! Its huge claws slapped down, and that person was instantly smashed into meat paste. Ling Xiao wasn't interested in asking why the other party was following him, because the answer was too obvious. He said something wrong, and the other party wanted to kill him. It was that simple. After killing the person who was following him, Ling Xiao jumped on the black tiger and continued to advance towards the black volcano. This time, there were no more troubles along the way. The black tiger's huge body stood there, and many beasts didn't dare to do anything. A moment later, Ling Xiao arrived near the mouth of the black volcano. The terrifying heat and powerful pressure made the black tiger not dare to move forward. Only now did Ling Xiao understand why this place was regarded as a forbidden area. If one's soul power was slightly weaker, and if one's fighting spirit was slightly weaker, they would be completely crushed by this terrifying pressure. There were many corpses near the volcano. Some were charred black, while some were still intact. They had died not long ago. Let's go back. Ling Xiao patted the black tiger's body lightly and let the black tiger go. Sometimes beasts were cuter than humans because they knew fear. After this black tiger was let go, it wouldn't find trouble with him again. But some people were different. Ling Xiao took a deep breath. Even though his feet seemed to be filled with lead, his body withstood the terrifying pressure, and his heartbeat kept accelerating, as if it was going to jump out of his body. This terrifying feeling was really unbearable. But Ling Xiao held on. His mind was as hard as iron. Nothing could destroy him. At this moment, he suddenly had an epiphany. He comprehended a new sword intent, immortal sword intent. Immortal meant indestructible, tenacious, eternal, and strong. Compared to slaughter sword intent and destruction sword intent, this immortal sword intent was more like used to protect oneself. The next moment, Ling Xiao converted all the sword intent in his body into immortal sword intent and released it. Even though the sword intent was constantly attacked, it still kept recovering, like an immortal god, never extinguishing. Chapter 1425. The immortal sword tore through layers of obstacles, allowing Ling Xiao to step into an area that no one had ever stepped into before. Looking down at the crater, Ling Xiao was stunned. He thought that only the immemorial golden crow had fallen into the black volcano. He didn't expect that there were two complete corpses lying in the boiling magma of the black volcano. One was a huge golden crow that was covered in golden light. When it stretched out its wings, it was dozens of meters long. The crater was large enough, with a diameter of hundreds of meters. The other corpse was pitch black. It was neither human nor beast, exuding a terrifying and evil aura. It was probably the immemorial heavenly demon. However, the most surprising thing was not the two corpses, but a sword. A simple and unadorned ancient sword pierced the corpses of the immemorial heavenly demon and the immemorial golden crow. Then it constantly released seal ripples, producing many inscriptions. What a terrifying sword essence! It hasn't dissipated after hundreds of thousands of years. It's still so powerful and terrifying. The sword essence was both good and evil. The only feeling it gave was that it was powerful. Ling Xiao stood there, feeling as if his body was about to be torn apart by the sword essence. Fortunately, he had just comprehended the immortal sword essence, which was endless, so he could stand there. Otherwise, the sword essence alone was enough to kill him. What a terrifying sword essence! It seems that I have a special harvest this time. Ling Xiao pursed his lips and smiled. He originally came here to look for the immemorial golden crow. He didn't expect that not only did he find the immemorial golden crow, but also the immemorial heavenly demon. What was even more terrifying was that he found a sword whose sword essence was completely compatible with his immortal sword essence. If he wanted to strengthen the immortal sword essence and improve his strength, this sword would be of great importance. Closing his eyes, Ling Xiao stood there, feeling the sword essence erupting from the crater and letting his body comprehend it. He let his sword essence collide with it. Like a statue, he stood there, motionless. The mountain wind blew, and only his hair and clothes fluttered, proving that this was not a statue, but a person. He stood there for a day and a night. The next day, Ling Xiao opened his eyes. A vast sword intent soared into the sky, piercing through the clouds and breaking through the evening mist. I didn't expect that after comprehending it here and combining it with the remaining wandering souls of sword intent, my sword intent would rise to the third tier of greater mastery. The third stage of the greater success sword intent could only increase one's attack power by 30%. However, this was only on the surface. The overall deterrence brought about by the sword intent was not something that could be explained by simple data. Previously, when my sword intent reached mastery and I comprehended the eye of the sword spirit, I've always wondered if I could borrow the eye of the sword spirit and my sword intent to create a special soul sword art. Ling Xiao stood there and looked at the sword that had pierced through the primordial sky fiend and the primordial golden crow. Only now did he fully understand that it was not a real sword, but an immortal sword that was completely condensed from sword intent. If others can use their sword intent to form the immortal sword, why can't I? Ling Xiao had never believed that his comprehension ability was inferior to anyone else's, especially with the help of the mountain river martial spirit. He believed that his comprehension ability was not inferior to a human king's. Eye of the sword spirit, sword of massacre. Ling Xiao planned to try cultivating the sword intent that he was most familiar with. The eye of the sword spirit was activated. A scarlet, sword of massacre, slowly flew out from the huge, sword-shaped eye. In that instant, Ling Xiao condensed all his killing intent into the sword of massacre. The terrifying killing intent was so overwhelming that the surrounding living beings could not help but tremble with fear. What's going on? Why is there such a terrifying killing intent at the crater? It's so far away, but it's still frightening. What kind of powerful expert is practicing his sword there? Ji Mengmeng and the others were rushing to the crater when suddenly a terrifying killing intent defeated a pack of demon wolves that were pouncing towards them. The pack of demon wolves seemed to have suffered a great shock as they howled and turned to flee. Ji Mengmeng was dumbfounded when she saw the scene. What kind of killing intent is this? I'm afraid that he has killed more than hundreds of thousands of people to be able to condense such a terrifying sword intent. Miss, let's not go over. I'm afraid that it's a massacre demon. The middle-aged warrior said to Ji Mengmeng with a pale face. Even though he had lived for dozens of years, he had never seen such a terrifying sword intent. Yes, Mississippi, let's not go over. The rest of the guards were also trembling with fear, afraid that they would be targeted by the massacre demon. The next moment, the killing intent suddenly disappeared. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief at the same time. However, just as they thought that the pressure had disappeared, the overwhelming sword intent engulfed the entire black volcano. Eye of the sword spirit, sword of destruction. Ling Xiao held the huge black sword in his hand and slowly waved it. With just a light wave, the terrifying sword intent of destruction was released without any reservation. Coupled with his terrifying soul power and the support from his mountain and river martial spirit, he had a terrifying feeling that he could destroy the heavens and the earth. Sword of massacre, slender, blood-red in color, mainly used for killing. Sword of destruction, wide, black in color, mainly used for destruction. This is even more terrifying than the simple release of sword intent. What will happen to the immortal sword next? Ling Xiao was very satisfied with the soul sword technique that he had comprehended. However, Ling Xiao did not know that the sword of massacre and sword of destruction were just his own sword intents, so there was nothing wrong with them. However, the immortal sword intent was very compatible with the huge sword that had pierced through the primordial demon and primordial golden crow. He really did not consider the consequences of comprehending the immortal sword. Carefully pondering the process of comprehending the immortal sword intent, Ling Xiao's Tai Chi eye was also rapidly spinning. Suddenly, a purple sword slowly emerged from the eye of the sword spirit. Rumble! At that moment, the entire black volcano trembled. Ji Mengmeng and the rest, who had just calmed down from the sword intent of destruction, felt a strong sense of fear again. Uncle Chin, what's going on? Does that senior expert want to destroy the entire black volcano? Ji Mengmeng not only felt fear but also anxiety. If the black volcano was destroyed, then the black fire lotus would be gone. How was she going to save her brother? I don't know either, but I'm sure that the black volcano is angry. It's constantly trembling violently and it might erupt soon. Miss, you can't stay here any longer. Hurry up and run for your life. The middle-aged warrior hurriedly shouted. No, I can't leave like this. Ji Mingming's determination to save her brother's life clearly overcame the fear in her heart. She suddenly rushed forward. Crazy! The group of guards gritted their teeth in anger, but they had to follow. After all, Ji Mengmeng was a member of the Ji family. Unless they could confirm that Ji Mengmeng was dead, they would be in trouble if Ji Mengmeng returned alive. Chapter 14:26. Abandoning his master and choosing to flee for his life was a huge crime. It was better to just kill her. But now, these guards had no way to kill Ji Mengmeng. Not to mention that Chun was powerful. Just the current situation. With the earth shaking and the mountains shaking, they could not even stand properly. How could they kill her? Although the black volcano had always been considered a forbidden area and was forbidden by the sect to cultivate here. But it had never been like this, where the entire mountain was shaking. Countless animals fled desperately from the black volcano. The warriors who were cultivating or adventuring near the black volcano. They were also frightened by this terrifying scene. Boom! Finally, the first flame erupted from the crater of the volcano. The soaring light pierced the clouds, and then the terrifying meteors fell continuously, smashing around the volcano. Those warriors were so scared that they ran for their lives. Fortunately, the warriors who dared to cultivate nearby were not weak. Those meteors seemed scary, but they did not hurt them. However, the vegetation on the mountain was in trouble. Thick smoke billowed and flames shot in all directions. It was a doomsday scene. That kid should be dead by now, right? The middle-aged warrior picked up Ji Mengmeng and fled into the distance. At this time, he could not let Ji Mengmeng be capricious. If she still rushed up in this situation, she would be an idiot. Was she going to die? Run for your life. Panic. The volcano erupted. The earth shook. Thousands of beasts ran wildly. In this strange scene, only Ling Xiao was still standing at the crater of the volcano, completely immersed in the world of sword intent. What was the ultimate goal of a warrior's cultivation? For wealth? For status? Or for power? Ling Xiao had also thought about these things, but he felt that they were wrong. The ultimate goal of the path of martial arts should be immortality. Everything was for the sake of immortality. To live as long as heaven and earth. To shine as brightly as the sun and moon. To be immortal and to exist forever. This was probably the wish of all warriors deep in their hearts. Unfortunately, the path of martial arts was too difficult, and immortality was so uncertain. So gradually, many warriors forgot this great goal. Each of them had their own goals, and all day long, they fought each other for power and profit. Ling Xiao himself had been confused before, and had also fallen into such chaos. However, at this moment he had an epiphany. Even if the heavens fell and the earth cracked, it had nothing to do with him. He stood there like an immortal sword, like an immortal statue. At this moment, he entered a state where he could control the world. He could feel every blade of grass, every tree, and even every element around him. It was as if he had really become an immortal in the world. Such a state of mind was truly rare. At the same time, no one noticed that in addition to the lava erupting from the volcano, there was also the terrifying, immortal, and indestructible sword intent. This sword intent was powerful and insufferably arrogant. He didn't need to reveal any domineering aura, but he could make countless living beings submit to him. There were even many martial artists who chose to kneel on the ground, regardless of the danger, and mumbled incantations. This terrifying sword intent shouldn't belong to a mere sacred dynasty's enchanted island. Its strength was even more terrifying than the martial artists on the Immortal Court continent and the Hell continent. Not only that, when this immortal sword intent soared into the sky, two other terrifying auras that were slightly weaker than this sword intent were also released at the same time. People could see that the sky was filled with golden light, as if intertwining into a huge golden crow. On the other side, the originally bright sky became pitch black, and the darkness intertwined into a terrifying heavenly demon. Boom! The golden crow and the heavenly demon collided in the sky. The terrifying power completely razed the black volcano to the ground. Only a speck of light remained suspended in midair amidst the terrifying explosion. Ling Xiao was standing in this light. The immortal sword intent allowed him to remain safe and sound in this crazy collapse of the heavens and the earth. Who is it? Who actually released the battle intent of the primordial golden crow and the primordial heavenly demon? In the largest cluster of palaces on the sacred dynasty's enchanted island, a group of powerful martial artists had an extremely ugly expression on their faces. One of them, whose hair and beard were all white, looked at the raised black volcano in the distance. His expression wasn't very good. In the past, their lineage separated from the sacred dynasty and came to this island. The first group of powerful martial artists discovered the secret of the black volcano. That was why they set up camp here, reproduced, and founded a sect. Every time a certain period of time, the black volcano would release a terrifying battle intent. This battle intent wouldn't hurt people, but it could greatly increase the cultivation speed of martial artists. Because of this, the sacred dynasty's enchanted island developed very quickly. The original 4 immortal islands became 5 immortal islands. However, the secret of the black volcano had always been kept by the Ji family. Now, the battle intent of the primordial golden crow and the primordial heavenly demon had been released. What did this mean? It meant that someone had comprehended the immortal sword intent. That huge sword condensed from sword intent was left behind by a peerless powerhouse of the Ji family tens of thousands of years ago. That powerhouse had now gone to the immortal court. However, the sword intent he left behind was immortal and indestructible. Before he left behind a sentence that whoever could comprehend the immortal sword intent would be able to obtain the battle intent of the primordial golden crow and the primordial heavenly demon. How much one could comprehend depended on one's comprehension. That was a precious treasure left behind by their ancestor for the descendants of the Ji family. Now that someone had obtained it, the sacred dynasty's enchanted island would lose its advantage in the future. Investigate, the old man roared. No matter who it is, they have to return what belongs to our Ji family. Yes, under the old man's order, the experts of the sacred dynasty's enchanted islands, Ji family, all moved out. Countless figures leaped out from the Ji family. Their target was the black volcano. This was a terrifying calamity. It was a scene of doomsday. Although most of the martial artists had already escaped from the black volcano, there were basically no casualties. However, the black volcano had been razed to the ground. Seeing the scene, all the martial artists, including Ji Mingming and the others, were panting heavily. They were so nervous that they couldn't speak. Even the master of the sacred dynasty's enchanted island, the white-bearded old man, was shocked by this earth-shattering scene. Not to mention these martial artists. They saw the black volcano being razed to the ground. They saw the golden crow and the heavenly demon fighting fiercely in the sky. In the primitive forest, sometimes there was a storm, sometimes there was sand and dust. The martial artists couldn't believe what they were seeing. Is the mystic world going to collapse? Is the sky going to collapse? Or is the sacred dynasty's enchanted island going to sink? Everyone's heart was filled with panic and worry. It was because the scene in front of them was so terrifying that they didn't have the slightest courage to face it. If they were already like this, then Ling Xiao, who was personally experiencing it, was even more shocked. At this time, he had already woken up from his cultivation. Looking at the doomsday-like scene around them, They were truly dumbfounded. What happened? How could this be? He wanted to ask others, but no one could answer his question. Chapter 14:27. In the sky, the primordial golden crow and the primordial heavenly demon were still madly and fiercely colliding with each other. The terrifying scene left Ling Xiao dumbfounded, but in the next moment he was pleasantly surprised. Then he sat cross-legged in the air, staring at the two primordial beasts in the sky with his Tai Chi eye. He thought of his own light shadow profound meaning. Weren't the immemorial golden crow and the immemorial heavenly demon light and darkness respectively? Why not take this opportunity to comprehend the two types of fighting intent, and then create a new move? Chirp, roar. Ling Xiao didn't expect that his comprehension of the fighting intent of the immemorial golden crow and the immemorial heavenly demon would anger the two behemoths in the sky. Although they didn't have physical bodies now, only fighting intent remained. Their strength was still much more terrifying than most of the martial artists in the mystic world. I fought bravely to the death for the Ji family, but my soul was sealed in this black volcano. I can't accept this. I am the immemorial heavenly demon. When the mystic world was first formed, I already existed. The boundless darkness is my power. I can't accept this. I shouldn't die here, sealed by a lowly human. One was aggrieved, the other was furious. The two terrifying fighting intents were completely aimed at Ling Xiao at this moment. Who is it that dares to provoke these two monsters? Does he not want to live anymore? The experts of the Ji family finally arrived near the black volcano, but this group of Grotto Heaven Realm experts couldn't get close to the black volcano. The two terrifying fighting intents had already caused substantial damage. Everything within 10 kilometers of the black volcano was annihilated. The immemorial golden crow's fighting intent was so terrifying that it wanted to destroy everything, and Ling Xiao's destruction soared intent. And the immemorial heavenly demon's fighting intent was so crazy that it wanted to kill everything, and it matched Ling Xiao's slaughter sword intent. Two swords hovered above Ling Xiao's head. A blood-red sword of slaughter. It was a black sword of destruction. These two swords were guiding the two fighting intents in the sky, and they were rapidly growing. The two behemoths in the sky also noticed the tiny human below. In their memory, the one who sealed their fighting intents was a human, a man named Ji Chong. That sword, the immortal sword that sealed them, it was Ji Chong who pierced their bodies and their fighting intents. Back then, the fighting intents of the immemorial golden crow and immemorial heavenly demon controlled martial artists who mistakenly entered this place. Later, Ji Chong sealed them with the immortal sword intent. They completely lost their ability to move. So they hated. They were angry. At this time, Ling Xiao also had the immortal sword will, although it was far inferior to Ji Chang's. What a hateful thing to do was to extend the influence of the house on its crow, causing these two ferocious beings to develop a great enmity towards Ling Xiao. Kill. The behemoths actually heavenly demon, heavenly demon, heavenly demon, heavenly demon facing these two terrifying monsters. Ling Xiao knew that there was no way he could resist them no matter what. He removed the sword of slaughter and sword of destruction, leaving only the sword of immortality. Although the immortal sword intent was weak, it had a powerful immortal will. Heavenly, heavenly sword, heavenly sword, heavenly sword, heavenly sword. The immortal sword shattered and then reformed. The so-called immortal sword was immortal and indestructible. Ling Xiao's sword intent was weak, but it would not die. No matter how powerful the two behemoths were, they were only condensed from fighting intents. To hurt Ling Xiao, they had to destroy the immortal sword intent that protected Ling Xiao. However, no matter how they attacked, Ling Xiao's immortal sword intent was endless. Interesting. Suddenly, the huge immortal sword belonging to Ji Chong, which had been observing in the void, let out a chuckle. The immortal sword had its own consciousness. I hope I didn't choose the wrong person. After chuckling, Ji Chang's immortal sword suddenly stabbed out from the void. Run! The immemorial golden crow and immemorial heavenly demon, felt the terrifying and familiar aura. They had no intention of fighting and turned to run. However, the sword was too fast. It pierced through their bodies in an instant. Then it pierced through Ling Xiao's body. In the eyes of the bystanders, Ling Xiao was too insignificant. They only saw a huge sword directly piercing through the two ferocious beasts, and then everything calmed down. At this time, Ling Xiao fell into a strange state. He thought he was finished this time. However, after being pierced through by the immortal sword, he did not die. Instead, he was abnormally clear-headed. At that moment, he seemed to have complete control of the situation around him. He could feel that the two behemoths' fighting intents were sealed in his body by the immortal sword. However, the immortal sword miscalculated. It originally planned to occupy Ling Xiao's body. However, it was unexpectedly pulled into the mountain river world by the mountain river martial soul. How could this be? The immortal sword's consciousness became fainter and fainter. Finally, it disappeared. In the mountain river world, there was only a giant sword and two behemoths left. Here, no matter how ferocious they were, they could not do anything to Ling Xiao. The mountain river martial souls was above everything. It was even more terrifying than the immortal sword. What is this? Is it a blessing in disguise? Ling Xiao felt that it was absurd. He came to the black volcano to look for the corpse of the immemorial golden crow. However, in the end, because he comprehended the immortal sword, he disturbed the immortal sword that sealed the two behemoths. Then, everything developed in a way that was too unexpected. The two ferocious beasts and the giant sword were trapped in his world of mountains and rivers, allowing him to absorb and use them as he wished. If he was outside, he would not be able to suppress such a terrifying fighting intent and sword essence. However, once something entered his mountain river world, it was completely under his control. Looks like it's time to find a place to meditate. Ling Xiao felt that he was going to have another big breakthrough this time. However, the black volcano had already been razed to the ground, and the two monsters had been forcefully sealed. He guessed that many people had seen this scene. He did not dare to stay here any longer. He did not want to be targeted. After all, the sudden disappearance of the two behemoths and the giant sword and his appearance here alone was too suspicious. Go. He prepared to leave this place first. However, just as he was about to leave, his Tai Chi eye suddenly glanced at the ground. After the black volcano was destroyed, a huge lake was formed on the ground. The lake was rich in heaven and earth vital energy. It was much richer than the highest level of the Divine Phoenix Empire's Heaven Essence Treasure Pagoda. It was more powerful than any of the secret realms in Qingshu College. Good heavens, if I bring this back, not only can I use the lake to cultivate, but I can also let my friends benefit from it. Thinking of this, Ling Xiao had a crazy idea. Behind him, a huge space appeared. The crazy suction force sucked in the black lake along with the lake water and soil. Chapter 1428. At this moment, Ling Xiao directly released his mountain river martial spirit because there was no one nearby. Usually, he was afraid that others would know, so he had always suppressed his terrifying martial spirit. Only now did he realize that his martial spirit was really too terrifying. It's too late. Ling Xiao could feel that there were dozens of terrifying auras rushing over here. However, there was still about 1/10 of the lake that had not been sucked in. Indecisiveness will only lead to chaos. It's better not to be too greedy. Thinking of this, Ling Xiao simply gave up on the 1/10 of the lake. In any case, he had obtained most of it. Then he sped up and left. However, even if he left, he did not go far. Instead, he stayed in the dense forest and waited for the crowd to arrive. As long as there were enough people, then even if he appeared again, he should not be suspected. What is this? How can there be so much heaven and earth origin chi? Quickly go and report to the island master. Do you want to change the mission at the last minute? A moment later, the group of experts from the Sacred Dynasty's Immortal Island arrived first. Although there was only about 1/10 of the lake left on the ground, it was still thousands of square meters in size. Feeling the abundant heaven and earth origin chi released from the lake, the people from the Immortal Island knew that they had found a treasure. They had come here under orders to find the person who had broken the immortal seal. However, seeing this lake, it was difficult for them to make a choice. Thus, dozens of experts surrounded the lake. Humans are indeed greedy. Even the high and mighty G family of the Sacred Dynasty's Immortal Island is only SOO. Ling Xiao, who was hiding in the dark, could not help but sneer. At this moment, he was hiding in the dark and carefully observing the remaining lake. Only then did he discover that in the depths of the lake, there was actually another target of his this time, the black fire lotus. It was clearly growing at the bottom of the water, but the lotus was still burning with a strange flame. This was really strange. The number of black fire lotuses is limited. I guess many people will covet it. Later, I will take advantage of the crowd to snatch more. Ling Xiao secretly thought, although there were also black fire lotuses in the lake in his mountain river world. The total number of black fire lotuses on both sides was not more than 100. There were 70 black fire lotuses in his body and about 30 outside. Just this bit of black fire lotus was not enough for him. If he could, he really wanted to be greedy and get more. After a while, more and more martial artists gathered here. Ling Xiao estimated that there were more than 10,000 people, and there was no lack of Grotto Heaven Realm cultivators among them. There were also some familiar faces, including Ji Mingming, the middle-aged man with the surname Qin, the old couple from the Mansion of Spirits, and the bald man. These people were originally waiting nearby. Now that there was a change here, they would definitely come over to take a look. Seeing that there were enough people, Ling Xiao blended into the crowd. What a huge lake! What an abundant yuan qi! Cultivating here for a day is probably better than cultivating for 100 days in other places. The bald warrior sighed. Although it might not be that exaggerated, it's not too far off. Moreover, with different aptitudes, the benefits one can get will probably be different as well. Regardless, this place is really the best place for cultivation. The old couple also said, "Quick, take up space." Someone in the crowd shouted, and hundreds of figures shot toward the lake almost at the same time. Kill! Hundreds of figures shot out, and in an instant, nearly 100 people were killed. Their corpses were also thrown out. This place has been occupied by the Immortal Island. Without the permission of the island master, no one is allowed to enter. Among the killers, one of them had reached the 6th Grotto Heaven Realm. He looked at all the martial artists and said coldly, "Why, although the Sacred Dynasty's Immortal Island is the temporary owner of this island, you don't have the right to monopolize it. Listen to me. We have more people. If it doesn't work, we'll destroy them. I don't believe that the G family dares to offend all of us." Greed could always make people forget fear. As soon as someone shouted, the martial artists who had died before were instantly forgotten. More and more warriors rushed over. This time, the G family had no other choice. After all, they only had a few dozen people. Against tens of thousands of people, there were no fewer Grotto Heaven Realm experts. In almost an instant, these dozens of people were all killed. When Ling Xiao saw this scene, he couldn't help but shake his head inwardly. These people from the G family were too stupid. Normally, they might be able to deter those people. But now that such a huge treasure was placed in front of them, how could they stop them? He shook his head. Whether the other party was stupid or not, it had nothing to do with him. What he needed to do now was to snatch the black fire lotus. Mixed in with the crowd, Ling Xiao's figure flashed and jumped into the lake. While the others were preparing to cultivate, he plunged headfirst into the lake. Relying on his powerful soul force and the Tai Chi eye to capture, he knew clearly where the black fire lotus was. Quickly go and find it. See if there's a black fire lotus at the bottom of the lake. Ji Mingming's goal was also the black fire lotus. She was not very interested in cultivation. So when she saw the Ji family's experts being killed, although she was afraid, she still gave orders to her guards. At this moment, the guards had already revealed hideous smiles. Idiot, who will help you? At this moment, they were completely attracted by the lake. How could they help Ji Mingming? Moreover, the Ji family and the martial artists present had become enemies. How could they dare to meddle in other people's business? They could even expose Ji Mingming's identity and let these people help them get rid of this girl. You are from the Ji family. How dare you be so rude to master? The middle-aged man, surnamed Chin, said coldly. Old Chin, don't scare us. We can still live in peace now. If we reveal Mrs. Identity, do you think those people will let her go? At this moment, the guards wanted to cultivate in the lake. They did not want to offend Ji Mingming too much. How dare you? The middle-aged man, surnamed Chin, was angry. Uncle Chen, let them be. Anyway, I didn't expect them to help. At this moment, Ji Mingming shook her head and stopped the middle-aged man, surnamed Chin. Miss Mingming is reasonable. Goodbye. All the guards plunged into the water in an instant. They now had Ji Mingming's weakness. If Ji Mingming dared to harm them, they could immediately expose Ji Mingming's identity. At that time, they would not care what happened. Miss, let's go down too. This lake was formed after the black volcano was flattened. There might be a black fire lotus at the bottom of the lake. The middle-aged man, surnamed Chen, said. Although he was angry, there was nothing he could do. Although he was not weak and was stronger than any of the guards. But as the guard said, if they exposed Ji Mingming's identity, even if Ji Mingming did not die, she would be taken hostage. So here they had to bear with it. Chapter 1429. After the two entered the water, Ji Mingming's eyes revealed a look of surprise. Uncle Chen, look, there really is a black fire lotus at the bottom of the lake. The black fire lotus was really too easy to recognize. It looked like a lotus, but it was like a black flame that was constantly burning. It really is a black fire lotus. I'll go get it. The middle-aged man, surnamed Chin, was also very surprised. He thought that this trip to the black volcano would end in failure, but now it seemed that the heavens had not abandoned them. However, just as he was about to take the black fire lotus, a figure flashed in front of him. It's the last one. Ling Xiao took the black fire lotus and directly stored it in the mountain river world, raising it in the black lake. In this way, not only would the black fire lotus be more effective, but it would also not wither. It's you! The middle-aged man, surnamed Chin, and Ji Mingming shouted, almost at the same time. Oh, it's you! Ling Xiao really did not pay attention to the two people just now. All his attention was focused on searching for the black fire lotus. He did not leave any of the 30 black fire lotuses behind. In addition to the original 70 black fire lotuses, there were a total of 100 black fire lotuses. The harvest this time was really not small. Kid, hand over the black fire lotus just now. We found it first. The middle-aged man, surnamed Chen, said angrily. Just as his hope was about to be fulfilled, it was suddenly robbed by Ling Xiao. How could he explain it to Ji Mingming? The expression on his old face was not very good. What a joke! This lake was found by those experts just now, but now they have already become corpses. Ling Xiao looked at the middle-aged man with disdain. He turned around and was about to leave. Since he had obtained the black fire lotus, he had nothing else to do here. As for the lake, whoever wanted to fight for it could go ahead. The news of the lake's appearance should have spread out by now. On the Sacred Dynasty's island, there were special envoys from the other 4 islands, as well as the envoys from the 7 Martial Sect Island and the 2 empires. These people would definitely pass the news to their respective forces and even organize people to seize the lake. After all, this lake was a true land of treasures. Whoever obtained it would have a qualitative breakthrough in strength for the entire faction. Ling Xiao didn't want to provoke this kind of trouble. He had already done what he needed to do. So returning to the divine Phoenix Empire and properly cultivating was the right thing to do. However, even if he wanted to leave, the middle-aged man, surnamed Chen, wouldn't let him. The middle-aged man blocked Ling Xiao's path and said coldly, "I don't care who you are, but you must give me this black fire lotus." "Is your face big?" Ling Xiao said disdainfully. "Uncle Chen, don't be rough." Seeing that the middle-aged man was about to attack, Ji Mengmeng hurriedly shouted, "But young miss, this person is too hateful." The middle-aged man, surnamed Chen, was very clear about the importance of this black fire lotus to Ji Mengmeng, so he really did not want to give up. Ji Mengmeng shook her head and said, "Uncle Chen, we can't be like those people who plotted against my brother. If we bully the weak just because we are strong, then what's the difference between us and those people?" "But isn't he going to save your brother?" The middle-aged man, surnamed Chen, said anxiously. "The lake is so big, it's impossible for him to pluck all of the black fire lotuses. If we hurry up and search, we can still find them," Ji Mengmeng said. Ling Xiao sighed inwardly. If the other party was aggressive towards him, he could turn around and leave without hesitation. Now that this little girl was so innocent, if he took all of the black fire lotuses, he would feel like he was committing a crime. But to ask him to give the other party a black fire lotus for free, he couldn't do it. After all, he wasn't a saint. "I still have to thank young hero for your reminder. As expected, those people did not have good intentions towards me." Ji Mengmeng was really a person who remembered kindness. Ling Xiao reminded her before, and she actually didn't forget until now. "Aya, seeing how obedient and well-behaved you are, I really can't bear to reject you. However, I've only met you by chance and have no relationship with you. How about this? If you want the black fire lotus, you'll have to pay a price." Ling Xiao scratched his head and said, "Is it really okay?" "Young hero, please say it. Even if I have to pay with my life, I will not hesitate." Ji Mengmeng said hurriedly. She just said that she wanted to find other black fire lotuses, but that was just to comfort herself. How could such a precious thing be so easy to find? Moreover, there were more and more warriors in the lake, and a treasure like the black fire lotus would definitely attract the attention of these people. The reason why no one had discovered it was probably because there really wasn't any left. Now that Ling Xiao said that it was okay to exchange, she was of course willing. Perhaps to others, the black fire lotus was just a precious herb, but to her, the black fire lotus was her brother's life. "Miss, you are crazy." The middle-aged man, surnamed Chen, was really afraid that Ling Xiao would make an unreasonable request, so he was a little nervous. "Uncle Chen, don't worry about me. For my brother, I am willing to give up everything, including being a slave, a maid, and even my life." Ji Mengmeng shook her head and said, her eyes were filled with determination, "Don't worry. I am not the kind of person who would take advantage of others. I just don't want to give away a treasure for nothing." Ling Xiao waved his hand and said, "Do you have anything that is as valuable as the black fire lotus?" "Let me see." Ji Mengmeng thought for a while and showed 4 things. The first item was a priceless jade. It was worth more than 100,000 middle-grade spirit stones. The spiritual energy contained in it was also equivalent to 100,000 middle-grade spirit stones. The second was a martial arts secret book, the Ji family's secret dragon sword skill. Its value was not lower than the jade stone, and it was even more valuable for warriors who urgently needed martial arts secret books. Moreover, this was a medium jade grade martial art, which was absolutely suitable for Grotto Heaven Realm warriors to practice. The third was a magic weapon. This magic weapon was also of a high grade. It was a mortal grade spiritual weapon, the Flame Umbrella. It could release a terrifying flame to burn the enemy. The fourth was Ji Mingming's martial spirit. This little girl really did not want to live anymore. She even offered her martial spirit as the price. Ling Xiao was not lacking in spirit stones. Although the jade stone was worth more than 100,000 medium spiritual stones, it was not enough to attract him. The dragon sword skill was not bad. Ling Xiao's light shadow profound meaning. The dark sword field, the light sword field, and the sun-moon sword field were powerful, but their attacks were too simple. Ling Xiao had been thinking of ways to strengthen the power of the sword field. The dragon sword skill was a secret martial art of the Ji family. It should be very suitable for the sword field that he comprehended from the human king's notes. Thinking of this, he said, "I'll give you the Blackfire Lotus. Give me the dragon sword skill." Hearing this, the middle-aged man, surnamed Chen, heaved a sigh of relief. Although the dragon sword skill was a secret, there were no Ji family members here. Only he saw it. As long as no one said anything, who would know? It was better than Ji Mengmeng paying with her life. Although this result was not the best, it was not bad. Chapter 1430. The two exchanged pleasantly. Ling Xiao smiled and said, "Now that you've obtained the Blackfire Lotus, you'd better leave quickly. This is not a good place, especially since you're from the Ji family." With that, he turned and left. I didn't expect this person to be such a sentimental person. The middle-aged man, surnamed Chin, sighed. "Uncle Chin, I know that there are a lot of bad people in the mystic world, but since this person was able to hint to me to be careful of the guards, it shows that he's not a bad person. That's why I didn't let you do anything. Young Miss is right. I was too impulsive." The middle-aged man, surnamed Chin, smiled bitterly. "That's not all. This person's strength is probably stronger than Uncle Chin. Once you fight, you'll definitely be at a disadvantage. There's no need to offend such a powerhouse." Ji Mengmeng shook her head and said, "All right, Uncle Chin, let's get ready to leave." Wait. Ji Mengmeng, who was just about to leave, suddenly found that Ling Xiao was surrounded by people, and the people surrounding Ling Xiao were her guards. "That person is in danger," Ji Mengmeng said. Although she knew that Ling Xiao was very strong, she had more than a dozen guards, 5 of which were Grotto Heaven realm martial artists. Even if Ling Xiao was strong, 2 fists were no match for 4. Facing these people, how could he have a chance of winning? "Young miss, it's better not to meddle in such trivial matters." The middle-aged man, surnamed Chun, frowned. "Uncle Chen, don't forget, that person has helped me twice. If he doesn't want to exchange for the Blackfire Lotus, we can't do anything." Ji Mengmeng shook her head. "All right, we'll do as young miss says." The middle-aged man, surnamed Chin, was truly loyal to Ji Mengmeng. Although he didn't have a good impression of Ling Xiao, he was still willing to help Ling Xiao for Ji Mengmeng. "The few of you don't go overboard. Although you all have people supporting you from the back, and it's the Ji family, don't forget your status. In the end, you're just servants. If you really annoy the young miss, your master can throw you away at any time." The middle-aged man, surnamed Chin, walked over and said to the guards, "Chin, mind your own business. This brat killed our brothers. He must die today." A Grotto Heaven realm expert among the guards snorted coldly. "Don't forget that we still have something on you. Do you really want to die? It would appear that you all are truly planning to attack." The middle-aged man took a deep breath. Although he knew that doing so could lead to danger, he had no choice but to obey the young lady's orders. He pulled out the long saber from the scabbard. Cold light flashed, and killing intent erupted. "Good. Chin, you've got guts. Everyone listen up. That girl is—" One of the Grotto Heaven realm guards shouted at the crowd. However, before he could finish his sentence, his head had already been removed. The middle-aged man, surnamed Chin, and Ji Mengmeng looked at this scene in shock, unable to accept it. Ling Xiao's strength had far exceeded their expectations. The guard that was killed was a second Grotto Heaven realm martial artist. He had actually been killed with a single strike. While they were still in shock, Ling Xiao's hands were not idle. His figure flickered as he shuttled through the crowd like a reaping ghost. In just a few moments, only one of the dozen guards was left, and this person was protected by an expert behind him. Brat, even if they deserve to die, you should wait until they finish speaking before killing them. Why are you in such a hurry? The expert was in his 30s. He had a black birthmark on his face. He looked ugly, but his cultivation was very strong. A fourth Grotto Heaven realm martial artist, was definitely one of the stronger ones among the tens of thousands of martial artists. Get out of my way, Ling Xiao said indifferently. Brat, don't be so shameless. I'm talking to you because I think highly of you. Don't think that you're so strong. The man with the birthmark snorted. I'll say it again. Get out of my way. Ling Xiao did not want to make enemies for no reason, but if this person insisted on stopping him from killing the guard, then he would be sorry. Those guards wanted to kill him, so he naturally had to fight back. There was nothing to say. You can try it today. The man with the birthmark's face darkened. Ignorant. Ling Xiao glanced coldly at the man with the birthmark. While he was still standing in place, a shadow sword had already pierced the guard's throat. I told you to get out of my way, but you didn't listen. You deserve to be humiliated. Ling Xiao said indifferently. Little bastard, you dare not give me face? You're courting death. As a fourth Grotto Heaven realm expert, Nan Xiong had never been humiliated like this. The people he wanted to protect had never been killed. Of course, that was because he never protected people he could not protect. But today, this brat had killed the person he wanted to protect in front of him. This was not giving him face at all. Lord Nan, this brat seems to be the one who killed the fifth master at Spectre Mountain Villa. A martial artist behind Nan Xiong recognized Ling Xiao. Really? Absolutely. Bald Eagle and the two elders of the volcano know it. Nan Xiong glanced at the bald man and the old couple. The two elders of the volcano hesitated. The old man smiled and said, We're old and our eyesight is a little blurry. Our memory isn't very good either, so we didn't see clearly. Sorry. Two cunning old fools, Nan Xiong cursed. Nan Xiong cursed inwardly. He knew that the two of them definitely knew the truth. They just didn't want to say it. However, Bald Eagle was more cooperative. He nodded and said, Lord Nan, this brat really did kill the fifth master of the whale sect. I was there at the time. This brat took a large number of sword, intent, wandering souls for himself. He was both wary and jealous of Ling Xiao. Before, he had been alone, so he hadn't dared to provoke Ling Xiao. But things were different now. He had Nan Xiong and a large group of people from the whale sect backing him up. Moreover, he was a fifth Grotto Heaven realm cultivator. Why should he be afraid of this brat? As soon as Bald Eagle finished speaking, he felt a chill run down his spine. A bone-chilling aura began to grow in his body. He turned his head and saw that Ling Xiao was looking at him indifferently, his eyes filled with killing intent. This caused him to feel a bit of panic in his heart. But after thinking about it, he realized that there were so many people here. What was there to be afraid of? Brat, you've offended the whale sect. You're dead for sure. How dare you look at me like that? Do you want to die? Bald Eagle roared. He felt like he was putting on a tough front, but he was actually a coward. If he didn't shout, he would probably be trembling with fear. Therefore, he had to vent his emotions. Lord Nan, I just saw this brat at the bottom of the lake. I don't know what he was doing, but he picked something that looked like a black lotus. Someone else suddenly said. They had been so focused on taking up space to cultivate that they hadn't thought about the treasures at the bottom of the lake. Now that they heard it, they found it strange. Although he didn't know what it was, if he said it out loud, perhaps others would know. Blackfire lotus. Brat, you actually found a blackfire lotus. The greed in Nan Xiong's eyes deepened. Chapter 1431. It wasn't just Nan Xiong. Many of the onlookers had the same expression. The value of the blackfire lotus was probably no less precious than cultivating in this lake. powerful auras instantly rushed towards Ling Xiao, pressuring Ling Xiao in an attempt to force Ling Xiao to submit. Ling Xiao's expression was still indifferent. There were hundreds of Grotto Heaven realm martial artists here. Although most of them had just broken through to the Grotto Heaven realm, there were still more than a dozen martial artists who had reached the third Grotto Heaven realm or higher. Did they really think he would submit just because these people were pressuring him together? He chuckled and said, "There are only 3 black fire lotuses. There are so many of you. Who am I supposed to give them to?" His words immediately caused the powerful Grotto Heaven realm martial artists to develop animosity. Although they didn't say anything on the surface, they began to be wary of each other. In their opinion, Ling Xiao was nothing. Wouldn't it be easy to force this kid to hand over the black fire lotuses? The problem was that there were more than a dozen martial artists who had reached the third Grotto Heaven realm or higher. 3 black fire lotuses weren't enough. All 3 black fire lotuses belong to our giant whale sect. Whoever dares to snatch them will be our enemy. Nan Xiong said coldly. Nan Xiong, are you an idiot? The black fire lotus is such a precious treasure. Do you really want to use the giant whale sect to pressure us? We even killed the experts of the Immortal Island. Your giant whale sect is nothing. A 5th Grotto Heaven realm martial artist sneered at Nan Xiong, not giving the giant whale sect any face. Nan Xiong frowned but didn't say anything. This person was right. The Sacred Dynasty's Immortal Island was much more powerful than the giant whale sect. They even dared to provoke the G family of the Immortal Island. What were they? Everyone, don't let that kid drive a wedge between us. He definitely has more than 3 black fire lotuses. Let's snatch them first. As for how to divide them, we can discuss it later. Although Bald Eagle was a coward, he wasn't stupid. He immediately saw through Ling Xiao's attempt to drive a wedge between them. That's right. Kid, it's easy to live. Leave your storage ring and get out of here. Nan Xiong yelled at Ling Xiao as he came back to his senses. He didn't want to fight with Ling Xiao now. After all, Ling Xiao was able to kill the giant whale sect's 5th young master. His strength was definitely not weak, and he was weaker than the 5th young master. If they were to fight now, he would definitely be injured. Once he was injured, all the good things would be snatched away by others, and he would not be able to get anything. That's right, Bald Eagle said with a cold smile. You're young, and it's not easy for you to cultivate. You should leave your things behind and scram. Don't say that us elders bullied you. He could be considered calm and composed now, as long as there was no internal strife on their side. Ling Xiao, a small fish, would not be able to overturn the situation. What if I don't? Ling Xiao smiled faintly and asked in return. Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. We told you to scram, because we are honoring the virtues of the heavens. That's why we are willing to let you go. If you want to die, each of these people here can drown you with their saliva. Nan Xiong sneered. Although he didn't think that Ling Xiao was easy to deal with, they had so many people on their side. How could they be afraid of a kid like him? Therefore, he didn't take Ling Xiao seriously at all. Haha, so you're giving me face by robbing me. Ling Xiao smiled mockingly. I'm not afraid to tell you that although I'm a little afraid of all of you attacking me together, I can guarantee that before I die, I'll take at least a dozen people with me. Whoever moves first, I'll kill them. As soon as he finished speaking, a terrifying killing sword intent suddenly erupted from Ling Xiao's body. The sword intent soared into the sky, terrifying to the extreme. No wonder. I didn't expect you to be a Grotto Heaven realm warrior. No wonder you're so arrogant. But with your cultivation, you can't escape death. Nan Xiong frowned. He finally understood why the 5th master was killed. This kid was not a weakling. If he launched a sneak attack, even the 5th master would have a high chance of being killed. Ling Xiao's face was indifferent. He felt that there was no need to talk nonsense with these people. If he wanted to intimidate them, he had to kill the chicken to warn the monkey. He had to kill one or two masters, quickly. In this way, these people would be afraid of him and wouldn't dare to be his enemy. He chose Nan Xiong and Bald Mountain Eagle for these two chickens. Nan Xiong was a member of the giant whale sect and had a deadly feud with him. Moreover, he was the one who had made things difficult for him first. Killing him wasn't wrong at all. As for Bald Mountain Eagle, he had at least released the wandering souls with sword intent for him to capture at the Mansion of Spirits. He didn't expect that this guy would betray him. In this case, he wouldn't be innocent if he killed him. After choosing the chicken to warn the monkey, Ling Xiao's Tai Chi eye rotated and a sword emerged from the void above his head. It was a killing sword. Sword Spirit's eye, killing sword. This was the first time Ling Xiao had used a sword formed purely by sword intent to kill someone. The stronger the sword intent, the stronger the sword spirit. Why is this killing intent so familiar? Is he the master cultivating at the Black Volcano? Ji Mengmeng looked on in horror, not daring to believe what she was seeing. She'd thought that Ling Xiao would be in danger, so she'd asked Qin for help. But now, it seemed that Ling Xiao wasn't the one in danger. Ling Xiao had survived the Black Volcano's explosion. Although she didn't know how he'd done it, Ji Mengmeng believed that Ling Xiao's strength was beyond her expectations. How dare these people tell Ling Xiao to scram? How dare they try to steal Ling Xiao's things? It was as if a little rabbit had stopped a fierce tiger and was boasting shamelessly. Nan Xiong's frown deepened. He could sense how frightening Ling Xiao's sword intent was, and how much pressure it exerted on him. Bald Mountain Eagle, let's kill him together. At this moment, Nan Xiong couldn't care less about his reputation. If he were to encounter a sailboat in the gutter, he'd really die. Thus, he might as well join forces with Bald Mountain Eagle. If he were to lose face, then so be it. As long as he survived, there was nothing wrong with that. All right. This time, Bald Mountain Eagle didn't refuse. Back at the Mansion of Spirits, he hadn't agreed to join forces with Green Hair to deal with Ling Xiao. But now he had no choice. He knew that he'd offended Ling Xiao completely. If he couldn't kill Ling Xiao, then he'd be the one to be killed. Hee kid, you asked for it. Terrifying elemental energy exploded from Nan Xiong's body. Behind him, the shadow of a giant brown bear suddenly appeared, letting out a terrifying roar. Although an animal-type martial soul didn't look that flashy, it was very difficult to deal with in battle. That's right, we told you to scram, but you didn't. Now die. Don't blame us for not giving you a chance. Bald Mountain Eagle also released a terrifying aura. Behind him, the shadow of a giant bald eagle appeared. It was also an animal-type martial soul, a brown bear and a bald eagle. Both were ferocious martial souls. One was at the 4th and the other was at the 5th Grotto Heaven realm. Their cultivations were much stronger than Ling Xiao's. Now, they wanted to join forces to kill Ling Xiao. Chapter 1432. Nan Xiong and Bald Mountain Eagle summoned their martial spirits as soon as they attacked. Clearly, they did not want to give Ling Xiao the slightest chance. Kill! Nan Xiong and Bald Mountain Eagle leapt up almost at the same time. Nan Xiong's body was like a small mountain as he crashed into Ling Xiao. The space was distorted by the collision, and the surrounding warriors all moved out of the way. Bald Mountain Eagle was like a huge bird of prey. He stretched out his claws in the air and grabbed at Ling Xiao's head. Sword, come! With a soft cry, the sword of slaughter hanging above his head flew into Ling Xiao's hand, releasing a terrifying sword essence. Ling Xiao still stood there, coldly looking at the two people flying towards him. He had seen too many one-on-two situations like this. He could not pay attention to both of them. He only needed to focus on one of them and attack fiercely. That would be enough. With his movement technique, it was not too difficult to dodge the other person's attack. The sword was blood-red and slender, as if it had been dyed red by blood. All the warriors were attracted by the sword as if it had a magical power. However, Bald Mountain Eagle and Nan Xiong smiled disdainfully at almost the same time. It was just a sword, not a dazzling move. Did he want to kill them with sword essence? That was ridiculous. Most of the onlookers were also very disappointed by Ling Xiao's response. Facing two such powerful opponents, he actually used an illusory sword condensed from sword essence instead of a real weapon. Was this really okay? It seemed that Ling Xiao could not compare to Nan Xiong and Bald Mountain Eagle, whether in strength or experience. Even though they were both Grotto Heaven realm warriors, Ji Mingming's heart became nervous again. She could not see through Ling Xiao. She really could not see through his thoughts. She could only pray for Ling Xiao in her heart. However, on the field, Ling Xiao maintained the same posture, holding the sword of slaughter and pointing it forward. He turned a deaf ear to the discussions of the outside world. Blood seemed to drip from the sword. A strong killing intent continued to brew at the tip of the sword. Only Ling Xiao knew how terrifying the scene would be when this sword was released. "I'll destroy you." Finally, the Southern Bear and Bald Mountain Eagle approached Ling Xiao at almost the same time. However, the cowardly Bald Eagle was still a beat too slow. Although it wasn't obvious for Ling Xiao, it was enough to turn the tables. The huge brown, bear-like body slammed into Ling Xiao. Bald Mountain Eagle's sharp eagle claws arrived soon after. But at that moment, a red light shot out from the blood-red sword of slaughter, heading straight for Nan Xiong. The red light instantly hit Zhongnan Xiong. Nothing happened. The terrified Nan Xiong suddenly realized that he was completely fine. He didn't feel any discomfort. "Stop pretending." His body, which had stopped for a moment, rushed forward again. The corners of Ling Xiao's lips curled up into a smile. Poof! A moment later, Nan Xiong suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, together with pieces of his internal organs. Bald Eagle jumped in fright. He didn't choose to continue attacking. Instead, he turned around and tried to flee. Although he didn't know what had happened, when Nan Xiong suddenly became like this, he knew that the problem was with Ling Xiao. Perhaps it was that red light that had seriously injured Nan Xiong. That was indeed the case. The red light was condensed with dense slaughter sword intent. It entered Nan Xiong's body and then suddenly exploded. Nan Xiong had been careless and used all his energy to deal with Ling Xiao. He didn't pay attention to the red light at all, which allowed the terrifying slaughter sword intent to sweep through his body and destroy his internal organs in an instant. He regretted it. If he had paid attention to it earlier, if he had wrapped his internal organs with his soul power, even if he was injured, he wouldn't be in such a miserable state. No, I can't accept this. Nan Xiong, a fourth Grotto Heaven Realm cultivator, was dead. Ling Xiao didn't even move. He killed Nan Xiong with just a flash of sword intent. Nan Xiong arrogantly looked down on Ling Xiao's sword intent, thinking that it couldn't kill people. But Ling Xiao was going to kill him, and he was going to kill Nan Xiong himself. It was not until the moment before his death that Nan Xiong regretted it. If someone could kill the fifth master, he could also kill him. Bald Mountain Eagle had already fled hundreds of meters away. Ling Xiao looked into the distance with disdain. The slaughter sword suddenly flew out of his hand. He had already learned how to control the sword when he was in the martial vein realm. Moreover, the slaughter sword was condensed with slaughter sword intent. It could be controlled with soul power, which was much more convenient than ordinary sword control. Puff! Bald Mountain Eagle's heart was pierced in the back of midair, and then he fell heavily to the ground. If he hadn't fled and fought Ling Xiao face to face, he might not have died so quickly. But choosing to flee meant that he had given up resisting, leaving a huge flaw to Ling Xiao. If he didn't die, who would? Bang! His body fell into the lake, splashing huge waves. Bald Mountain Eagle, the fifth Grotto Heaven Realm, was dead. An illusory sword, 2 attacks, killed 2 Grotto Heaven Realm experts. Ling Xiao's strength had clearly intimidated everyone. The effect of killing the chicken to warn the monkey had been achieved. Who else wants to die with me? Ling Xiao looked around, his cold eyes filled with contempt. The group of people who had been clamoring for him to scram and leave the treasure behind now seemed to have their mouths sealed. They didn't dare to speak. Is there anyone else who wants me to stay? Ling Xiao asked coldly. Still, no one said a word. After all, Ling Xiao's strength was too terrifying. If there's no one else, then I'm leaving. Ling Xiao turned to look at Ji Mengmeng and said, "Let's leave together. This is not a place to stay for long. The forces of the sacred dynasty on the Enchanted Island will probably come one after another. Although this lake is big, without the backing of a powerful sect, there is no way to stay." He was grateful that Ji Mengmeng was willing to let the middle-aged man, surnamed Chen, help him, so he was willing to take them with him. Just take it as a convenience. At this time he could already sense countless experts in the distance, and even powerful beasts lurking in the primitive forest were rushing over. This place would soon become a place of conflict. "Stop! You can leave, but she has to stay." Just as Ling Xiao was about to leave, a voice rang out. "Are you the one who said that?" Ling Xiao turned to look in the direction of the voice. It was a man dressed in a large red robe. He looked majestic and domineering. This person had been silent, but now that he had suddenly spoken, it seemed that he had seen through Ji Mingming's identity. "That's right, it's me." The man in red indifferently said, "I'm not interested in your Blackfire Lotus, nor do I want to provoke you. But you can't take that girl away. She's a member of the Ji clan. We killed so many people from the Ji clan just now, so we have to take her as a hostage." "What? She's actually a girl from the Ji clan. Then she can't leave." "That's right, she's a very good hostage. If we really get into trouble with the Ji clan, she can definitely save our lives. She can't leave. We can't let her go." Chapter 1433. Ji Mingming's face turned pale as she listened to the clamor. She and Ling Xiao did not know each other before they met at the Black Volcano. Although Ling Xiao could help her and trade for the Blackfire Lotus with her, but he would never risk his life for her. "What if I don't?" Ling Xiao glanced at the red-robed man and asked. Hearing this, the red-robed man frowned while Ji Mingming was overjoyed. She did not understand why Ling Xiao was willing to risk his life to save her. However, in Ling Xiao's view, he was the one who said that he wanted to take Ji Mingming away. If others stopped him, it meant that they wanted to be his enemy. In that case, if he gave up on Ji Mingming, wouldn't it mean that he was scared? What's more, in the face of these rotten onions, it was not necessary to risk his life. Saving her was just a matter of convenience. He just liked Ji Mingming. He just wanted to take her away. Why couldn't he do things according to his heart? What's more, the red-robed man and others had forced him to give up the Blackfire Lotus and get lost, but they did not attack. So he did not intend to trouble the red-robed man. But now that the red-robed man suddenly came to find trouble with him, could he be obedient like a grandson? "If you don't keep her, you may die," the red-robed man said lightly. From his casual tone, it was obvious that he did not take Ling Xiao seriously. Even if Ling Xiao killed Nan Xiong and Bald Mountain Eagle, he was still so confident, which meant that he was stronger than the two. "You?" Ling Xiao laughed. "Yes, me." The red-robed man said lightly, "I'll give you a chance. You can leave, but she can't." "Ha ha! Unfortunately, I don't like other people's charity." Ling Xiao laughed disdainfully. "If you want to fight, then do it. I guarantee that you will end up like Nan Xiong and Bald Mountain Eagle. It seems that you really want to die. Is it worth it for an irrelevant woman?" The red-robed man said sarcastically, "She was willing to help me when I was in the most dangerous situation. Just because of this, I can't let her die today." As soon as Ling Xiao finished speaking, his body flashed and a sword light broke through the air, shooting towards the red-robed man. Boom! The red-robed man didn't know what to do. He just struck out with a single palm, and the terrifying palm energy instantly shattered the sword light. Then it continued to move forward, attacking Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao's figure flickered as he dodged the attack. However, the surface of the lake where he stood suddenly exploded, setting off waves that were over 10 meters high. What a powerful palm! Ling Xiao smiled. It's good that you know. Nan Xiong was just a brute and Bald Eagle was a coward. It's not a big deal that you killed them. Red Robe said indifferently, I know you are very strong. Even I would need at least 100 moves to defeat you. But in the end, you won't be my match. Young hero, you should leave. They just want to take me as a hostage. They won't kill me. As long as the Ji family comes, I'll be fine. Ji Mingming's eyes were filled with tears. From the day she was born until today, other than her crazy brother, no one else was willing to risk their lives to protect her. Even her Uncle Chun was just following orders and didn't really care about her. Ji Mingming was actually satisfied to have met such a person. Moreover, she knew that the red-robed man wouldn't kill her, so she said that. She didn't want Ling Xiao to die because of her. Girl, you're too emotional. Now that you've said that, I can't leave. If I leave now, I'm afraid I won't be able to eat or sleep in peace for the rest of my life. Ling Xiao shook his head and smiled bitterly. He was most afraid of people who treated him extremely well. But today he had encountered one. Originally, he really didn't plan to risk his life. If he encountered something that he couldn't solve, he would definitely run. He could only blame Ji Mingming's bad luck. But Ji Mingming's words made him suddenly feel that he was very inhumane. A martial artist is actually so emotional. You're destined to die because of your emotions. The red-robed man said coldly, I'll say it again. If you don't leave, you'll die. I only let you have one move, and you're really so arrogant. You should be a 5th Grotto Heaven Realm Warrior. If you were a 6th Grotto Heaven Realm Warrior, I would be a little afraid. But you, there's nothing to be afraid of. Ling Xiao looked at the red-robed man again and suddenly released a terrifying sword intent. This time, what was released was the sword intent of destruction. Ling Xiao wasn't just fighting, he was also testing his moves. Previously, he had used the Sword of Massacre to kill Nanxiong and Bald Mountain Eagle. This time, he was going to use the Sword of Destruction. The huge Sword of Destruction required 2 hands to hold. The wide blade was as wide as Ling Xiao's body. With just a swing, sand and pebbles were sent flying. The movement was very loud. The Sword of Destruction, Annihilation. Holding the Sword of Destruction, Ling Xiao stepped forward. The huge blade was so light in his hand. The air was pierced by the huge sword, and a tearing sound was heard. The red-robed man just stood there indifferently and didn't move. When Ling Xiao approached, a blood-red long saber suddenly appeared in his hand and then met the Sword of Destruction. Clang! The deafening sound quickly spread throughout the Blackwater Lake. On the lake, with Ling Xiao and the red-robed man as the center, terrifying waves rolled to the shore. Many warriors were scared and fled. The sword and saber clashed, but couldn't move an inch. Young man, you're really powerful to force me to use my weapon, but you're still too conceited. The red-robed man smiled coldly and said, You didn't have to die and had a bright future, but today you must die. As he spoke, a huge shadow of a bat appeared behind the red-robed man. The bat showed 2 colors, red and black. Then it quickly collapsed and turned into thousands of small bats, biting at Ling Xiao. Interesting martial soul, but it's useless. Ling Xiao's body suddenly burst with a blazing light. Red sun feather coat. Flames surged and light radiated in all directions. At this moment, Ling Xiao seemed to be wearing clothes interwoven with the surface of the sun. The moment the countless bats got close to Ling Xiao, they were completely evaporated and destroyed by the high temperature. The red sun feather raiment was the first light ultimacy that Ling Xiao comprehended. But with the breakthrough of his cultivation, The power of the red sun feather raiment increased day by day. Just now, when Ling Xiao used the red sun feather raiment, he felt that part of the power of the immemorial golden crow in the mountain river world was extracted, making the red sun feather raiment look like the golden crow. What's going on? The red-robed man was shocked by Ling Xiao's red sun feather raiment. He hurriedly withdrew his martial soul, but he didn't expect the sword of destruction in Ling Xiao's hand to suddenly exert force. Crack! The blood-red broadsword in his hand was actually split into two halves by the sword. The red-robed man was so scared that he quickly retreated hundreds of meters away. But even so, the terrifying sword essence of destruction still left a terrible wound on his chest. Terrifying! How can this kid be so strong? The red-robed man was scared. Chapter 1434. The reason why the red-robed man dared to stop Ling Xiao was because he felt that he could defeat Ling Xiao. But now, it seemed that it was just his wishful thinking. Ling Xiao's strength was far beyond his expectations. He was lucky to be able to keep his life. Now, he didn't dare to ask Ling Xiao to keep Ji Mingming. What a joke! That was simply gambling with his life. Do you think you've dodged it? Ling Xiao's cold voice sounded in his ears. The sword of destruction has the most terrifying sword intent of destruction, enough to destroy everything. Once injured by the sword of destruction, there is no chance of survival. The red-robed man was about to speak when he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his body. The wound on his chest grew bigger again. This time, it directly penetrated his body and destroyed his grotto heaven. No, I hate it. The red-robed man didn't understand until he died. He had only attacked a young man who looked less than 20 years old. How could he die so miserably? I've said it before. I'll take whoever I want. Anyone who dares to stop me will be killed. Ling Xiao's voice was cold and murderous, causing everyone who heard it to shudder involuntarily. The fifth Grotto Heaven realm warrior, the red-robed man, was dead. Everything seemed to be so simple and so fast. In just a moment, the number of Grotto Heaven realm warriors who had died at Ling Xiao's hands had reached 3. In addition to Ji Mingming's useless guards, he had killed at least 7 or 8 Grotto Heaven realm warriors. Now, does anyone still want her to stay? Ling Xiao coldly looked at the remaining people and asked with a cold smile on his face. No one said a word. Ling Xiao's strength had proven to everyone that he had the ability to take anyone away. Suddenly, there was a whistling sound from the horizon. Ling Xiao frowned. He didn't expect to be delayed by the red-robed man. It wouldn't be easy to leave now. Not good. The Ji family of the Immortal Island is here. Let's go. There were many people here who had participated in the operation to kill the Ji family's experts. Although he had killed to his heart's content out of greed, just now, he had killed to his heart's content. But after calming down, they felt fear. That was the Ji family of the Immortal Island. If he was really caught, it would be difficult for him to escape death. Even those who didn't make a move would still be killed. The 5 Immortals Island had the same style. They would rather kill 10,000 innocents than let go of someone who dared to challenge them. We can't leave. Ling Xiao sighed. He could feel that his surroundings were blocked by powerful martial artists using a movement array formation. Even if he wanted to break this formation, it would take him about 15 minutes. It would be even worse for others. Master, I'll have to trouble you to help me break the formation. I'll buy some time. Ling Xiao said to the Yuan Venerate within his body. Don't worry. I'll use your source soul to release it first. That way my soul won't scatter. Yuan Venerate said. All right. Ling Xiao had no intention of becoming enemies with the Ji family of the Immortal Island. After all, this was a monster stronger than the Divine Phoenix Empire. There would definitely be a Yin-Yang realm martial artist overseeing it. Ah, don't kill me. I didn't do anything. Suddenly, the martial artists who had chosen to escape turned into corpses and were thrown back. All the martial artists kept quiet out of fear. Do you think you can leave so easily after killing the people of the G family? Do you think that the G family of the Immortal Island is a sick cat just because the tiger doesn't show its might? As the voice was heard, a young man in purple and gold armor with a mighty appearance appeared before everyone. He stood in the void and held a long spear in his hand. He was dressed in martial attire and looked exceptionally mighty. He simply looked like a god of war. It's actually him. Oh no. Ji Mengmeng, who was standing beside Ling Xiao, looked worried when she saw this person. Who is he? What's going on? Ling Xiao asked. The Ji family of the Immortal Island has a total of 3 branches. My brother and I belong to the second branch. And this guy is Ji Ying from the main branch. He's only 25 years old, but he's already a martial artist at the peak of the 5th Grotto Heaven realm. His martial attire is a mortal-grade spirit artifact. Even if he's facing a 6th Grotto Heaven realm martial artist, he won't show any weakness. Ji Mengmeng explained, moreover, this person has always believed that those who obey him will prosper, and those who oppose him will perish. My brother was assassinated because he was unwilling to wallow in the mire with the main branch. I see. Ling Xiao nodded. He seemed to understand. This Ji Ying would not only not save Ji Mengmeng, he might even deliberately kill her. Young Mastering, leave this small matter to me. I'll definitely handle it beautifully for you. At this moment, a group of martial artists appeared behind Ji Ying. There were probably thousands of them. Although there weren't as many as the martial artists on the Blackwater Lake, there were many experts, especially the martial artist who spoke to Ji Ying. He actually made Ling Xiao feel a strong sense of danger. Who is that person? Ling Xiao asked. Giant Whale Sect's Vice Sect Master Nan Sha. Ji Mengmeng lowered her voice and said, Young hero, you'd better find a chance to leave quickly. You just killed Nan Xiong. He's Nan Sha's brother. He definitely won't let you go. Ling Xiao thought, I didn't just kill Nan Xiong. I also killed the giant whale Sect's 5th head. But even if I want to leave, I'm afraid I can't easily get away now. These guys, how can they let me leave so easily? It was no secret that the giant whale sect belonged to the Immortal Island's Ji family. Otherwise, this sect wouldn't have grown so quickly. Fortunately, Nan Sha didn't appear this time. Otherwise, Ling Xiao would really have to run. After all, Nan Sha was said to be a Yin-Yang realm martial artist. Although he had just stepped into the Yin-Yang realm, he was still not someone he could deal with now. Vice Sect Master Nan Sha was also very strong. He was a 7th Grotto Heaven realm martial artist. Although it was still difficult for Ling Xiao to defeat him, it was not impossible to kill him with soul adjudication. As for Ji Ying, he didn't care at all. To other people, Ji Ying was really strong. But to him, that person was nothing. No need to talk nonsense. Kill them all. Ji Ying said indifferently. This subordinate obeys. Nan Sha revealed a sinister smile. I'm afraid that's not appropriate. Ling Xiao suddenly said, There are many people like me who didn't attack the Ji family's experts. Don't tell me you want to kill all of them. Kid, you're not convinced? Ji Ying sneered. Yes, I'm not convinced. Ling Xiao said indifferently. We're not convinced either. We just came here to cultivate. We didn't attack the Ji family's people. How can you kill indiscriminately? This is unfair. There were many people who agreed with Ling Xiao. Shut up. A bunch of greedy guys. Even if you didn't attack, you actually dared to covet the Ji family's treasured land. Just based on this, you all deserve to die. Ji Ying sneered. Today you only have 2 choices. One is to be killed by us, the other is to commit suicide. Choose. Chapter 1435. The Ji family of the Immortal Island is indeed overbearing and unreasonable. I've seen it for myself. Ling Xiao said indifferently, You're called Ji Ying, right? This time, the Ji family asked you to come forward and settle this matter. That's because they think highly of you. Don't bring disaster to the Immortal Islands, G family. We don't want to cause trouble. We can even accept your investigation to see who attacked your people. Is that not enough? No. Ji Ying rejected Ling Zhao's question. Looking at your young age, you're not stupid. Why would you ask such a stupid question? I've already said it very clearly. Whether you do it or not, you will die because you actually dare to touch the treasure land of the Immortal Island. Did you just say that my choice would bring disaster to the sect? It's simply ridiculous. Just a few cats and dogs like you want to subvert the sacred dynasty's Immortal Island? Giving you the chance to commit suicide is already thinking highly of you. Why aren't you doing it? Young Master Ying is right. Letting you commit suicide is already very polite. If you let us do it, none of you will be able to leave an intact corpse. Nansha revealed a mouthful of big white teeth and laughed. His face was filled with a cruel smile. It seemed that to him, killing was a very fun game. Listening to your words, do we have to kneel and thank young Master Ying for giving us a decent chance to commit suicide? Ling Zhao's face revealed a strong sense of ridicule. What did this group of high and mighty fellows take human life for? Did they really think that so many martial artists here were mud to be kneaded? Letting them commit suicide was actually a reward? It was simply unreasonable. Ji Ying sneered and said, "Boy, you're very talkative. Since that's the case, let Nansha personally send you to your death later. It's best to turn your body into pieces and throw them into the lake to feed the fish. I know you're not convinced, but even if you're not convinced, you have to hold it in. The strong are the truth. It's useless even if you're not convinced. What about the others? If you want to commit suicide, hurry up. I don't have the time to wait for you to think about it. If you commit suicide, your family won't die. If you refuse to commit suicide, then later, after killing you, none of your family and friends will live." Ji Ying looked at the rest and asked coldly, "How despicable." All the martial artists felt a chill run down their spines. This was especially true for those martial artists whose families and friends lived on the sacred dynasty's Immortal Islands. They were even more frightened. Zhang Wu chose to commit suicide. Finally, someone stood out and slapped the top of his own head, dying miserably on the spot. "I hope you treat my family well." Another person stood out. Once someone took the lead, it seemed to become especially easy. Even if you commit suicide, they won't let your family off. Even if they don't kill you, they'll make them slaves. Ling Zhao's voice rang out again. Think about their actions carefully. They would rather kill 10,000 innocents than let one go. Would they spare your family and friends for revenge? It wasn't that no one had thought of such a thing, but at this moment, fear made many warriors lose the ability to think. It wasn't until Ling Xiao said these words that they suddenly woke up. Yes, what's the point of dying? He might as well go all out. Perhaps he could still fight for a bright future. At this time, there were only 2,000 or 3,000 martial artists left out of the 10,000 people. There were too many people who committed suicide. Fortunately, Ling Xiao stopped them in time. Otherwise, there was really no need for the giant whale sect to do anything. Ha 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 ha. Boy, you're still very smart. Unfortunately, it's too late. If you had 10,000 people, we might be a little afraid, but now there are only 2,000 people left. There's nothing to be afraid of. Ji Ying laughed out loud. A bunch of idiots. Do you really think that you can be forgiven by committing suicide? No matter how you die, the final outcome is the same. We will definitely cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. More than 2,000 martial artists, hearing Ji Ying's words, trembled with anger. They were actually teased like this. It was too sad. Aren't you happy a little too early? Ling Xiao looked at Ji Ying coldly and said, 2,000 people against more than 1,000 of you. It's still a sure win. That's right. If we join forces, we may not lose to you. Everyone listen. Killing one is enough. Killing two is a profit. We must not let these bastards succeed. The two elders of Volcano were also angry. The two elders originally stood aloof from worldly affairs, only wanting to cultivate and seek the Tao of longevity. But this time they were involved in such a calamity, and they did not even have a chance to explain. The others did not give them a chance at all. Kill! All the remaining martial artists echoed, their voices shaking the sky. Ji Ying's expression became even colder, and there was a bit of disdain in the coldness. Did you hear that, Nansha? They want to wipe us all out. Tell them your strength. Yes, young mastering. Then more than 1,000 giant whale sect martial artists, including Nansha, completely released their auras. How can there be so many Grotto Heaven realm martial artists? The two elders of Volcano frowned, looking at the people of the giant whale sect in surprise. Ling Xiao also frowned. According to common sense, this was not normal. Out of more than 1,000 people, nearly 500 were Grotto Heaven realm martial artists, although 400 of them were only first Grotto Heaven realm martial artists. But even so, this was too many. This was just a very ordinary sect on the Sacred Dynasty's Immortal Island. Could this be the strength of the 5 Immortal Island? This was too terrifying. There were as many Grotto Heaven realm martial artists as there were Deva realm martial artists on the Divine Phoenix continent. Of course, the most terrifying were the 3 leaders of the giant whale sect. The second leader, who was the vice leader, Nansha, was 7th Grotto Heaven realm martial artist. The third leader, 6th Grotto Heaven realm martial artist. The fourth leader, 6th Grotto Heaven realm martial artist. In addition to them, the giant whale sect also had 10 giant whale knights, all of whom were 4th Grotto Heaven realm martial artists. Although Nan Xiong had died, there were still 9 of them, and they were all here. There were also close to 100 2nd and 3rd Grotto Heaven realm martial artists. This scale was simply too terrifying. Listen, let's play a hunting game today. Kill a Deva realm martial artist, and you'll be rewarded with 10 sacred dynasty merits. Kill a Grotto Heaven realm martial artist, and you'll be rewarded with 100 sacred dynasty merits. Ji Ying revealed a sinister smile, and then said in a clear voice, although Ling Xiao did not know what sacred dynasty merits were, he could guess. This should be a little similar to sect points. He could definitely exchange them for rewards from the Ji family on the Immortal Island. Hearing Ji Ying's words, all the giant whale sect martial artists cheered. They were obviously too excited. To be able to kill this group of ants and obtain sacred dynasty merits, this was simply too blissful. Fortunately, their sect master had left the Immortal Island for the Divine Phoenix continent because of a major matter. Otherwise, how could such a good thing fall into their hands? After all, their sect master was too strong. Chapter 1436. The giant whale sect's martial artists rejoiced because their sect's pillar, Nanjing, wouldn't steal their credit. Their sect master was a Yin Yang realm martial artist. Killing these people would be as easy as snapping his fingers. Listen to me. Don't panic. Do as I say, and the ones who will die today won't be us, but them. Right now, Ling Xiao was being forced to oppose the Ji family. Since that was the case, he had to make full use of his advantage. Who are you? Why should we listen to you? Won't we be used as cannon fodder? That's right. Only a fool would believe you. Most of the martial artists didn't believe Ling Xiao's words. Although Ling Xiao was strong, it was precisely because of this strength that he might use them as cannon fodder. They weren't fools. They wouldn't believe Ling Xiao. It's up to you whether you believe me or not. Ling Xiao didn't like to force others. Fortunately, there were still about 100 people who believed him. This included the 2 elders of the volcano. With these 2 around, his plan might be able to proceed more smoothly. Miss Ming Ming, you should go back over there. Weapons have no eyes. Once the battle starts, no one can be sure that they can protect you. Ling Xiao glanced at Ji Ming Ming and said, Young hero, Jing has been here for a long time and hasn't mentioned her. She wants to kill us as well. I'm not talented, but I'm a Grotto Heaven realm martial artist. Miss Meng Meng is also a second Grotto Heaven realm martial artist. She can help. The middle-aged man, surnamed Qin, said, respectfully. Right now he was completely in awe of Ling Xiao. All right, since that's the case, do as I say. At the very least, I can guarantee that you won't be killed so easily. Ling Xiao took out an array refining stone and muttered. In an instant, a strange inscription appeared on the bodies of the 100 martial artists. Stand according to this formation. You can stabilize your defense. Thank you, young hero. But what about you? The elder of the volcano asked doubtfully. I'm fine. They can't kill me. Unless there are Yin-Yang realm martial artists, no one can stop me if I want to leave. Ling Xiao sneered. He had already killed 2/5 Grotto Heaven realm martial artists. But in reality, he had yet to use his trump card. If he was forced into a corner, he would let those fellows know what fear was. Everyone knew how powerful Ling Xiao was, so they didn't question his decision. If they had doubts, they wouldn't have chosen to cooperate with Ling Xiao. Remember, retreat as you fight. However, you must maintain your formation and move towards the west, Ling Xiao added in a low voice. Although they didn't understand why Ling Xiao did this, everyone still nodded to show that they understood. Since they had chosen to believe in Ling Xiao, they would not easily doubt him. Otherwise, before the enemy attacked, their side would be in chaos. Young hero, you should be careful. I'm afraid they will treat you as an important target, Ji Mengmeng said with concern. You don't have to worry about us. You should prioritize your own safety. After all, if you don't die, we will be safer. In fact, although everyone felt that Ling Xiao was powerful, the enemy was too strong. It was already good enough that Ling Xiao could protect himself. How could he take them away? That was a little too whimsical. They weren't the only ones who thought so. The giant whale sect members also thought so. Nan Sha, you deal with the others. Leave this kid to me. Ji Ying was very unhappy with Ling Xiao. An ant-like existence actually dared to clamor in front of him and even vainly attempted to protect others? Who do you think you are? Ji Ying felt that if he didn't kill this ant with his own hands, it would be too boring. Young master, this isn't good. Who dares to fight with you for merit points? Nan Sha smiled bitterly. Don't worry. I don't want merit points. Kill him and it'll be on you. Ji Ying only wanted to get rid of this kid who dared to ignore his authority. As for other things, he didn't think too much. He didn't care about such a small amount of merit points. Many thanks, young mastering. Brothers, what are you waiting for? Kill. Nan Sha sneered and was the first to pounce. Then miserable screams sounded. Ling Xiao didn't look elsewhere. His eyes were fixed on Ji Ying. This person's high and mighty gaze, as if he was looking down on all living beings, made him feel very uncomfortable. Kid, you don't have to be unconvinced. Who asked you to not be born in a good place? If you were from the sacred dynasty's immortal island's Ji family, then you can also strut around today. You can kill whoever you want without thinking about anything else. Ji Ying walked closer to Ling Xiao with his spear in hand. Then, with a shake of his spear, he stabbed the ground. The ground suddenly bulged, and a huge, wild boar drilled out. Although this wild boar didn't look very good, this guy was actually a Grotto Heaven realm beast. It was equivalent to a 5th Grotto Heaven realm martial artist. This meant that Ling Xiao didn't have to face Ji Ying alone, but also this ferocious wild boar. Ji Ying leaped onto the wild boar and clamped his legs. The wild boar roared and charged at Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao's face was still as calm as an ancient well. Once he entered a battle, he would become very calm. The spear was pointed at Ling Xiao. The wild boar's speed made the spear emit sparks. Then, thick smoke billowed and finally flames surged. At this time, the spear turned into a flaming spear. Facing the enemy's attack, Ling Xiao sneered and stabbed the destruction sword in his hand at the flaming spear. He wasn't afraid at all in a head-on clash. Clang! Sword and spear intersected in the air. Then flames filled the sky. The nearby martial artists all dodged. Some people even stopped because of this collision. They were afraid of being swallowed by the terrifying high temperature. At this moment, the wild boar suddenly disappeared and then suddenly appeared, attacking Ling Xiao from the ground. It opened its huge mouth and wanted to swallow Ling Xiao directly. At the same time, Ji Ying's attack also didn't weaken. Instead, it became even stronger. On the spear, the flames became brighter and brighter. Behind him, a ball of scarlet flames also appeared. That should be a strange fire of a monster beast. This Ji Ying's martial spirit wasn't weak at all. However, in terms of high temperature and flames, it wasn't that Ling Xiao looked down on anyone. In front of him, those who played with fire were probably trash. Die. The martial spirit behind Ji Ying burned even brighter. At that moment, he was really like a god of fire descending from the sky. Speed, ferocity, and ruthless moves. The wild boar underground had already regarded Ling Xiao as a delicacy. It opened its huge mouth and wanted to swallow Ling Xiao in one bite. At that moment, Ling Xiao didn't move. The destruction sword in his hand was constantly gathering power. The destruction sword intent rose to the extreme. Although he felt the threat of this sword, Ji Ying had no intention of retreating. In his opinion, retreating now was too shameful. He just said that he wanted to kill Ling Xiao with his own hands. How could he retreat? Chapter 1437. Although he felt the terror of Ling Xiao's sword, Ji Ying did not plan to retreat. He believed that his attack was not necessarily weaker than the other parties. Whoosh! The wild boar's huge mouth closed and Ling Xiao was swallowed whole. Ji Ying was stunned for a moment. He did not expect that everything would be so easy. He did not even have time to release his attack, and it was already over. Just as he was feeling a little disappointed, the wild boar suddenly let out a mournful scream. Then a golden light directly cut open the wild boar's body, and a person flew out from inside. At that moment, Ji Ying did not think of attacking, but retreating, because that sword light made him feel a powerful killing intent. It was a kind of killing intent that made people tremble in fear. If he did not dodge fast enough, he would have been pierced through by the sword and then died. Can you escape? Didn't you just say you wanted to kill me? Ling Xiao laughed coldly. At this moment, the destruction sword in his hand was a little strange. This sword was actually filled with the power of light and emitted a dazzling light. Destruction, sword of light. During the battle, Ling Xiao once again sublimated his moves. He merged the destruction sword with the divine sword of light. One was a sword of soul condensed from sword intent. The other was a divine sword of light condensed from internal energy. When the two swords merged together, it could cause great destruction and destruction to the soul and body. The dazzling light attracted everyone's attention. For a time, the battle on the other battlefield came to an abrupt end. Nan Sha discovered the situation here and was shocked. He could clearly see that the power of Ling Xiao's sword was enough to kill Ji Ying. If Ji Ying died, then he, Nan Sha, would be unforgivable. Who is Ji Ying? He is the second son of the Ji family's eldest branch of the Immortal Island, one of the hopes of the eldest branch in the future. But he wanted to help, but he was forced to open his eyes by the dazzling light. He could only vaguely hear the sound of the sword whistling and then rushed over following the sound in an attempt to intercept Ling Xiao's killing blow. Kid, stop. If you kill him, you won't be able to live. Won't be able to live? Was he an idiot? It was you guys who didn't want me to live. So what if I killed him? He simply did not care about Nan Sha's roar. Ling Xiao's sword chopped out. In the clear sky, a blood-curdling scream resounded through the entire Blackwater Lake. Even in his dreams, Ji Ying would never have thought that the Dragon Phoenix election was about to begin. Just as he was about to achieve great things, he would die so muddle-headedly. Moreover, he had died so miserably that not even a complete corpse was left behind. That horrifying radiant sword of destruction had completely shattered his soul realm and continued to tear his body apart, tearing him into pieces. Of course, at this time his consciousness had already been completely destroyed. This was perhaps the only thing worth rejoicing about. Nansha finally arrived. Unfortunately for him, Ling Xiao had already moved to another location. The sword of annihilation in his hand stabbed towards the great whale Sek's fourth master. "Little bastard, I'm going to tear you to shreds!" Nansha roared. Only now did he realize how troublesome this Ling Xiao was. This guy was like a slippery loach, and his speed was frighteningly fast. He wanted to chase, but he could not catch up at all. He could only watch as the horrifying radiant sword of destruction fell from the great whale Sek's fourth master's head. The fourth master's body immediately fell apart. As for Ji Mengmeng and the rest, they could be considered to have been saved. Since the start of the battle, although Ji Mengmeng and the rest of the 100 over people had used Ling Xiao's array, there was not a single casualty. However, a long battle was bound to be lost. Moreover, seeing how difficult it was to deal with them, 2 of the 3 great whale Sek's heads actually ran over. 4 or 5 of the 9 great whale riders had also gathered. Naturally, they were under great pressure. However, Ling Xiao's killing of the great whale Sek's fourth master instantly saved them from their predicament. The battle came to an abrupt end. Ji Ying died in battle. The great whale Sek's fourth master died in battle. A situation that no one had expected had occurred. What made the great whale sect even angrier was that those people who had been unwilling to listen to Ling Xiao's words had all gathered behind Ling Xiao. These people were not fools. They could tell that with the help of Ling Xiao, not a single one of the 100 or so people had died, while over 1,000 of their 2,000 people had already died. If this continued, they would all die. Ling Xiao naturally did not refuse anyone who came. If he could increase the strength of his side, why would he refuse? The more people there were in his array, the more powerful it would be. He did not expect these people to be of much help to him, but at the very least they would be able to block those small fries of the great whale sect. If they could tie down 1 or 2 experts, that would be best. That would give him enough time to counterattack and kill his opponents. Ling Xiao had already given the array diagrams to Ji Mengmeng to control. What he needed to do was to leave his soul brand on these people. Only then would the array be successful, and if someone tried to betray him, he would be the first to detect it. It was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Nan Sha glared viciously at Ling Xiao, but did not make a move. Never in his wildest dreams would he have imagined that this kid with a glib tongue would have such terrifying strength. How did this guy cultivate? He shouldn't be 20 years old yet, right? As for Ji Mengmeng and the others, they had long regarded Ling Xiao as a god who had descended from the heavens. Ji Mengmeng was well aware of how terrifying Ji Ying was. Add to that the fact that he was equipped with a body full of mortal-grade spirit weapons. His strength was even more shocking. But even so, he had been so useless in front of Ling Xiao, and had been killed in an instant by Ling Xiao. He had even given Ling Xiao the chance to kill the great whale sect's 4th master. With just 2 sword strikes, 2 powerful enemies were gone just like that. If the deaths of Bald Eagle, Nan Xiong, and the red-robed man were due to an accident and underestimation of the enemy, then this time, finding such an excuse was a bit unreasonable. Ling Xiao's strength was true strength. "Young hero, I didn't expect you to be so powerful, but now that you've killed Ji Ying, I'm afraid the Ji family will soon know. The great whale sect may not be scary, but when the Ji family sends out their core experts, you will have nowhere to run." Ji Mengmeng reminded. "So what I mean is, if you have the chance, run. Don't worry about us. Run. Since we've decided to fight together, I won't run away so easily." Ling Xiao was such a person. Since they had formed an alliance, he would never abandon his comrades and run away alone. Unless his comrades were all dead, only then would he leave, find a way to become stronger, and come back for revenge. All of you, continue to attack those trash. Leave this kid to me. Nan Sha did not dare to leave Ling Xiao to others. He would only be at ease if he did it himself. After all, he was a 7th Grotto Heaven realm martial artist, and Ling Xiao looked like he had just broken through to the 4th. Compared to him, he was still far behind. Ling Xiao's speed was very fast, but in the process of chasing just now, he had already set up his own giant net. This was specially used to deal with speed-type martial artists. Chapter 1438. Nan Sha believed that no matter how fast Ling Xiao was, he would not be able to escape his tight encirclement. Listen to Second Head. Everyone said in unison. After all, Second Head Nan Sha was their backbone now. So what if Jiying died? As long as Nan Sha did not die, it was fine. Hearing Nan Sha's arrangement, Ji Mengmeng and the others began to worry. On their side, Ling Xiao had already become their spiritual pillar and the strongest martial artist. If Ling Xiao died, they would lose everything. At most, they would all be killed. Nan Sha actually wanted to deal with Ling Xiao personally. This Ling Xiao would be in trouble. After all, they were the clearest about Nan Sha's strength. Ling Xiao was no match for him. Don't worry about me. He can't kill me. Ling Xiao looked at everyone indifferently and said, "What you need to do is follow my plan and array formation and kill the rest of the giant whale sect." This was also the fundamental reason why Ling Xiao saved the others. Otherwise, if the other party attacked him together with Nan Sha and the other experts, he would not be able to withstand it. Understood? No one said anything else. Now that things had come to this point, their hearts were already completely linked together. They did not dare to say anything about the future, but at the very least, they did not dare to be disloyal now. After all, this was for their own lives. Once thousands of people united and coordinated with Ling Xiao's array formation, the battle power they could display would not be lower than Ling Xiao's. It was just that Ling Xiao's battle would be more flexible. After all, array formations had very big weaknesses, especially this kind of mobile array formation. Once the weakness was found, it would be very easy to break it. Therefore, everyone understood in their hearts that their lives were closely linked to Ling Xiao's. If Ling Xiao died, they could forget about living. After all, the array formation was set up by Ling Xiao. Only he knew how to prevent its weakness from being broken. Fight! Everyone worked together and let out angry roars. Facing the enemy, they were fearless. Ling Xiao stood there and looked at Nan Sha, who was not far away. Bright light gathered on his body, and a fiery red sun hung behind him. It was as if a god had descended. He stood there, unyielding and awe-inspiring. In the sky, the scorching sun was like fire. The sun shone on Ling Xiao's head, and the power of the red sun merged into the red sun behind him. The sword of light of destruction in his hand shone even brighter. However, this was not the end. Ling Xiao pulled out Ice's Fury. This was the first time he had used a weapon since the start of the battle, because the opponent was really strong. Fusion. The sword of light of destruction wrapped around the Ice's Fury and fused perfectly. The sparkling and translucent blade of Ice's Fury was filled with dazzling light and destructive sword intent. Nan Sha looked at Ling Xiao cautiously. Even he did not dare to underestimate Ling Xiao in the slightest. Ling Xiao, this kid, was too cunning. If he was not careful, he might be overturned by this guy. If he failed miserably, not to mention meritorious service, he might even lose his life. Nan Sha did not want to do an unprofitable business. Nan Sha stood on the Blackwater Lake, and a ferocious, great, white shark shadow appeared behind him. This guy's martial spirit was actually a beast of the sea. The great white shark, martial spirit, absorbed the power of the Blackwater Lake and became abnormally strong and ferocious. Its angry eyes stared at Ling Xiao, as if it wanted to swallow Ling Xiao in one bite. I'm a 7th Grotto Heaven realm martial artist, coupled with this powerful white shark martial spirit. Do you still have a chance to live? Nan Sha stood in the water, but his body was floating there, as if he was stepping on something. He was furious. Ling Xiao actually killed Jiying and his 4th head in front of him. This was simply a great humiliation to him. And the most troublesome thing was that the Ji family would definitely find trouble with him because of this. Unless he killed Ling Xiao, he would not be able to save his life. Otherwise, he would have to wait for the Ji family's anger to completely burn him. Powerful cultivation does not mean powerful strength. In my opinion, you're just a facade. Ling Xiao smiled disdainfully. In the next moment, his body erupted with an astonishing light, and he left the place in an instant. When he reappeared, the light destruction sword was less than a meter in front of Nan Sha. The corner of Nan Sha's mouth raised into a cold smile. I'm not as fast as you, but I still have the Grotto Heaven domain. Inescapable net. At that moment, Ling Xiao felt like he was a mosquito that flew over and was directly stuck on a huge net. This net was actually formed by interweaving water. It was densely packed and was also very sticky. Although the light destruction sword's power was great and cut the huge net, because it was on the Blackwater Lake, the net was actually endlessly growing and constantly repairing. After Ling Xiao rushed for a distance, he finally withdrew his attack. There was no point in continuing. The other party's move was really powerful. He also had to admire it. This seemed to be specially targeted against speed-type martial artists. Although Ling Xiao was not a pure speed-type martial artist, the idea of wanting to end the battle quickly came to an abrupt end. Facing such a defense, it was impossible for him to make a more reasonable and effective attack. Hee kid, do you think you can dominate the world by relying on your speed? If there were no secret skills in martial arts, no martial spirit, no Grotto Heaven, your idea might be good. But with all these, your idea is just too stupid. Nan Sha looked at Ling Xiao coldly and then launched an attack. Now, you're just a pitiful little bug. Go and die happily. Nan Sha turned into a white shark. The huge net seemed to have no effect on the water-type martial spirit. In an instant, he was near Ling Xiao. Grotto Heaven domain, do you think you're the only one who has it? A cold smile appeared on Ling Xiao's face. In the past, when he was still a half-step Grotto Heaven realm martial artist, he had already comprehended the sword domain. In the end, he developed the dark sword domain, light sword domain, and sun-moon sword domain. Now, his cultivation was already at the 4th Grotto Heaven realm. The sword domain of the past would only be stronger. Light sword domain. In that instant, his surroundings were enveloped by countless sharp sword lights. Nan Sha was so shocked that he hurriedly stopped. However, at this moment, Ling Xiao suddenly took out the dragon sword skill book that Ji Mingming had given him before. At that time, he wanted this book to strengthen the sword domain. It was a pity that he never had the time to read it. At this moment, because Nan Sha did not understand the situation of his sword domain, he actually stopped there, giving him a chance. I see. Ling Xiao nodded as he read. Flipping through the book was faster than falling out. In just an instant, he had flipped through the entire book. Then he put the book away and a smile appeared on his face. Little bastard, you actually looked down on me. Nan Sha was infuriated by Ling Xiao's actions. Someone actually dared to read a book while fighting with him. This was simply unforgivable. Chapter 1439. With a furious roar, Nan Sha continued to move forward. The gigantic white shark formed from the water of the Blackwater Lake pounced towards Ling Xiao with a ferocious aura, vowing to swallow Ling Xiao in one gulp. As for Ling Xiao, he seemed to be thinking about something. The sword chi in his hand slowly turned into a fiery red color. and even gradually formed the shape of a divine dragon. However, the divine dragon was too small. In his hand it was like a small loach, except that it was fiery red in color. Ha ha ha, looks like I was right. This dragon sword art can indeed perfectly fuse with the sword domain. Although it might not be very strong now, in the future, when I release the martial spirit of the primordial dragon, its power will definitely be even more perfect. Ling Xiao could not help but laugh. Laughing your mother's balls. Ling Xiao's expression really infuriated Nansha, although he did not do it on purpose. He raised his head and looked at Nansha, muttering to himself, "Today I'll use you to test my moves." Radiant Sword Domain. Fire Dragon burning the heavens wind and cloud fury. The moment Ling Xiao spoke, the Radiant Sword Domain changed. All of the sword chi turned into a slender fire dragon in an instant. It spiraled and danced in the air, looking rather spectacular. After that, the Radiant Destruction Sword in Ling Xiao's hand also turned into a fire dragon. However, this fire dragon's body was huge. The Radiant Divine Sword and the Radiant Sword Domain could be used together. Now that he had used the dragon sword art, its power was even stronger. In the sky, countless fire dragons surrounded the great white shark. One of the fire dragons was dozens of meters long. It had a huge body and a ferocious face. It opened its bloody mouth and bit towards the great white shark. Nan Shao wanted to rely on his martial spirit to swallow Ling Xiao in one gulp. However, at this moment he was facing the situation of being swallowed by Ling Xiao. He could use the Blackwater Lake to increase the power of the white shark martial spirit. Ling Xiao could also use the Scarlet Sun to increase the power of the fire dragon. Damn, you have so many tricks. Break for me. With a furious roar, the southern shark transformed into his human form and slammed his palm on the scarlet fire dragon's forehead. Rumble! One of the small fire dragons was smashed into pieces. However, when the power of the Scarlet Sun was released, the small fire dragon instantly began to condense again. Under the sun, Ling Xiao's radiant sword domain grew and multiplied without end. Nansha had not expected this at all. Damned fellow, how can this be? Why can't I kill him? Nansha retreated in horror. If they couldn't even kill a small fire dragon, how were they going to deal with a huge fire dragon? Nansha was furious. After the panic, he was completely enraged. The water in his black lake began to be absorbed into the great white shark's body. The great white shark grew bigger and bigger, and its size finally surpassed that of the giant fire dragon. Kill! Nansha charged forward once again. This time he chose to fully shapeshift. This was something that all animal-type warriors could comprehend. It was just that some people were better at using it, while others were worse at it. Swallow! The great white shark swallowed a small fire dragon. However, the small fire dragon did not resurrect and was completely destroyed. Although a new small fire dragon began to condense after it was destroyed, its speed was obviously not as fast as before. Nansha seemed to have found the weakness of Ling Xiao's radiant sword domain, and his face lit up with joy. Then he began to feast. Bang! Just as he was swallowing those small fire dragons, his body was suddenly slapped hard and he was sent flying. He forgot that the dragon ancestor was still there. The fire dragon, condensed by the radiant sword of destruction, was much stronger than those small fire dragons in terms of strength and power. Bah! Kid, you're ruthless. The southern shark spat out a mouthful of bloody saliva. He felt as if nothing had happened and began to fight again. However, this time when he was swallowing the small fire dragon, he did not forget about the threat that the large fire dragon posed to him. He constantly dodged and counterattacked. The battle between the two of them was actually in a stalemate for a while. This was simply a battle between water and fire. However, in the eyes of those with discerning eyes, Ling Xiao was actually at a disadvantage. His small fire dragons were getting fewer and fewer. In the end, there would only be one large fire dragon left. At this rate, failure was only a matter of time. A 7th Grotto Heaven realm martial artist is really not easy to deal with. He's too strong. Will that young hero have a problem? The middle-aged man, surnamed Chin, said worriedly, Uncle Chin, don't worry about others. Take care of yourself first. The young hero must have his own way. He has created so many miracles. He will not let us down. Ji Mengmeng had almost become Ling Xiao's loyal fan. She now had unconditional trust in Ling Xiao. It seemed that there was nothing in this world that Ling Xiao could not do. Let's see how long you can be arrogant. The southern shark was secretly happy. He did not expect to find Ling Xiao's weakness so quickly. As long as he continued to attack, he would soon be able to kill that annoying kid. Ling Xiao frowned. He was also clear in his heart. Although the light sword domain had become very strong after being strengthened by the dragon sword art. But in terms of cultivation, the difference between him and the southern shark was still too great. It was only a matter of time before this fire dragon sword domain was broken. However, what he was doing now was merely testing his moves. It was normal that he could not win. He still had an even stronger trump card that he had not used yet. What he needed to do now was to make his fire dragon sword domain easier to control. This way, the other improved versions of the sword domain brought by the dragon sword art would be able to be used with ease. Of course, the southern shark did not know what Ling Xiao was thinking. He thought that he had the advantage now and was constantly launching fierce attacks. At the same time, the battle on the other side was also very tragic. But under the protection of Ling Xiao's array formation, it was the giant whale sex side that suffered more casualties. The battle was so intense that no one noticed that an uninvited guest had come to this place. In the sky, a flywheel ship was floating there. An old man stood at the bow of the ship. His hair and beard were all white, and he was imposing without being angry. Although he looked very ordinary, his body released a terrifying aura. The black volcano was destroyed. The primordial golden crow and primordial Scythian's fighting spirit also disappeared. Even the old ancestor Ji Cheng's immortal sword has disappeared. Who did it? The old man lowered his head and looked down. The densely packed crowd was in the middle of a battle. On the ground, the corpses had already accumulated into piles. Father, why don't I see Jiying? Someone suddenly asked. The old man looked around. Sure enough, he did not see Jiying's figure. He closed his eyes and released his aura. A moment later, his face revealed a touch of ashen. Jiying, he actually died in battle. His grandson, one of the hopes of the eldest branch, was actually buried in this inexplicable battle. Who killed him? The one who roared was Jiying's father, the eldest son of the eldest branch, who was also the old man's eldest son. We'll know in a while, but no matter who killed Jiying, he has to die. The old man said coldly, on the sacred dynasty's immortal island, killing his grandson. If such a person was let go, his old bones would probably be laughed to death. Chapter 1440. Although Ling Xiao was facing Nansha, who was at the 7th Grotto Heaven realm, he did not ignore the flywheel ship that suddenly appeared in the sky. Even the killing intent coming from the other party was very obvious to him. On the sacred dynasty's immortal island, the only one who could have killing intent toward him was the Ji family. If he killed Jiying, the other party would not let him go. But since the other party had not made a move, he had to kill Nansha as soon as possible. He could not continue to waste time. Thinking of this, Ling Xiao quickly mobilized the power of the human monarch in his body. Currently, he still had 5 strands of the power of the human monarch. However, ever since he entered the Grotto Heaven realm, the effect of the power of the human monarch on him became worse and worse. In the past, when he was still a half-step Grotto Heaven realm, he could use the power of the human monarch to contend with Grotto Heaven realm martial artists. But now, the power of the human monarch might bring him an increase in strength. In other words, he was now a 4th Grotto Heaven realm martial artist, so the power of the human monarch was equivalent to his fifth Grotto Heaven realm strength. This was the case for the time being in the Grotto Heaven realm. When he reached the Yin Yang realm, the power of the human monarch would probably completely lose its effect. Therefore, Ling Xiao did not feel any heartache when using the power of the human monarch now. When the power of the human monarch was used, Ling Xiao's fire dragon sword domain's power clearly increased greatly. Every small fire dragon transformed from sword qi became even more powerful. It was already impossible for Nan Sha to swallow it in one gulp. Dragon bind. As Ling Xiao's cold voice sounded, the terrifying small fire dragons pounced at Nan Sha in groups, and then continued to gather and surround him. What's going on? Nan Sha was really scared out of his wits. Ling Xiao's sudden outburst of power was simply without any warning, catching him off guard. He desperately tried to break free, but the small fire dragons gathered more and more. No, I can't die like this. Break free for me. Nan Sha was really frightened. He released all of his terrifying power, and the small fire dragons that were originally surrounding him were completely scattered. His face lit up with excitement, but in the next moment his excitement turned into despair. Something terrible happened. The largest fire dragon wrapped itself around his body and continued to circle around him, entangling him tightly. Immediately after, countless small fire dragons flew over one by one and quickly surrounded him again. Save me! Nan Sha didn't know who he was asking for help from, but he could only ask for help to relieve the fear in his heart. He was at his wits' end. He had actually been tormented to such an extent by a brat at the fourth Grotto Heaven realm. Even his life was about to be forfeited. How could he accept this? Emperor Sky, go save him. In the sky, on the flywheel ship, the white-bearded old man said to the young man standing beside him, Ji Huangtian. He had finally returned from the White Tiger continent, the #1 expert of the Sacred Dynasty's Immortal Island, ranked second on the Dragon Phoenix list. The Divine Phoenix Empire had the 10 Phoenix Sons, and the Black Crow Empire had the 7 Fiends. Almost every sect or great power had their own ranking and title. However, there was only one Dragon Phoenix list in the Divine Phoenix Continent and the Heavenly Dragon Continent. It represented the strongest martial artists under the age of 30 in the Heavenly Dragon Continent and the Divine Phoenix Continent. The Dragon Phoenix list was usually changed every year. Of course, under special circumstances, such as when a martial artist on the list was killed, the list would be changed temporarily. And this Dragon Phoenix list was jointly created by the Heavenly Dragon Trading Company, the 5 Immortal Island, the 7 Martial Grandmaster Island, and the 2 Great Empires. It was very authoritative. Ji Huangtian was ranked second on the Dragon Phoenix list last year, and the Divine Phoenix Empire's Phoenix Cry Mountain was ranked 5th, and Fengyin Shan was ranked 10th. One had to know that among the 10 Phoenix Sons last year, Phoenix Cry Mountain was ranked 1st, and when it came to the Dragon Phoenix list, it was only ranked 5th. Fengyin Shan was ranked 10th, and that opposite bank Immortal Island's Zhong Yu Huangquan, the guy who tried to take Cold Plum away from Ling Xiao, was ranked 4th on the Dragon Phoenix list. No matter who they were not as terrifying as Ji Huangtian. It was said that the guy ranked 1st was a monster from the Everlasting Joy Immortal Island. His name was Dan Feng. However, Ling Xiao had never seen that person before. He didn't even know if he was a man or a woman. Therefore, Ji Huangtian was the strongest person on the Dragon Phoenix list that Ling Xiao had seen so far. The white-bearded old man asked him to make a move because he knew that he could easily rescue Nan Sha. However, Ji Huangtian did not make a move. He only looked at Ling Xiao and said, "Let him go." His voice was very soft and indifferent, but it carried a commanding tone that absolutely could not be disobeyed. This seemingly light tone was actually condensed with an extremely powerful pressure. Ordinary martial artists would not be able to withstand it at all. They would definitely choose to listen to his instructions. But who was Ling Xiao? He was not an ordinary martial artist. He completely ignored Ji Huangtian's words. Seeing that the small fire dragons had completely wrapped around Nansha, he muttered to himself, "Dragon bind, burial kill!" Boom! Those fire dragons clearly shrunk. This scene made Ji Huangtian very displeased. He frowned and finally made a move. He did not use a weapon. He only blasted out a palm from hundreds of meters away. Crack! An explosion sounded from Nansha's body. The small fire dragons and the big fire dragons were all destroyed by this palm. Nansha fell out from inside. Although he was not dead yet, almost all the bones in his body were broken. Even his head had been squeezed out of shape. One could imagine that if Ji Huangtian did not make a move in time, Nansha would definitely not be able to escape death. Even so, the current Nansha was basically no different from a cripple. Even without Ling Xiao making a move, Nansha probably would not live for long. Ji Huangtian looked at Ling Xiao coldly. He did not care whether Nansha died or not. But Ling Xiao actually dared to continue attacking after he spoke. This made him very unhappy. He was a direct descendant of the sacred dynasty. There was always a taboo sentence: "Those who obey me will prosper, and those who oppose me will perish." Ling Xiao did not listen to him, so he was already on his death blacklist. The white-bearded old man witnessed everything and instantly frowned. The young man in front of him looked like he was only 17 years old. However, he could rely on his own strength to almost kill the second-in-command of the Great Whale sect, Nansha. This kind of terrifying talent, even on the Dragon Phoenix list, was definitely rare. If there was someone who could compare to this kid's talent, it could only be Ji Huangtian beside him, the eldest grandson of his eldest son, Ji Ying's brother Qin. Although Ji Huangtian's expression was as calm as water, an obvious killing intent spread out from his body. "He must die." After a long time, Ji Huangtian spoke. "That's right, he must die." The white-bearded old man also nodded slowly. Then he ordered the flywheel ship to slowly descend. "Nansha, your great whale sex people are really getting more and more useless. You can't even kill a small nobody. Aren't you ashamed?" The old man's deep voice sounded. In an instant, the entire battlefield stopped fighting. His voice was obviously mixed with a powerful and terrifying inner strength, causing everyone to feel a huge pressure, which was why they suddenly stopped fighting. Chapter 1441. Everyone looked at the slowly descending airship in horror, thinking that it was over. The giant whale sect could be considered easy to deal with, but now that the island master of the sacred dynasty's immortal island had personally come, could they still leave alive? There was really no hope at all. It was completely over. Island master is right. This subordinate is indeed trash, but this kid is too strange. He must not be underestimated. Nansha did not dare to show any displeasure or dissatisfaction in front of the Ji family's patriarch and the sacred dynasty's immortal island's island master. If others said he was trash, then he was trash. There was nothing to argue about. Who asked him to not even be able to deal with a little brat, and even cause Ji Ying's death? Ling Xiao looked at the Ji family's people and could not help but think of his parents. Back then, his parents had passed by the sacred dynasty's immortal island and lived here for a while. His father was Ji Furing, which meant that he was actually related to the Ji family, although they were not blood-related. This feeling was really strange. They were relatives, but they did not feel the slightest bit of kinship. Island Master Ji, today's matter was caused by this Blackwater Lake. Many of the Ji family's experts have been killed, but 90% of the cultivators present have been killed. The death toll has reached 9,000. Can we just let it go? Just as everyone was in despair, the volcanic old man stood up and cupped his hands at the white-bearded old man. "This Blackwater Lake is still your Ji family's. We will leave immediately. Good death. The white-bearded old man looked coldly at the volcanic old man. Not to mention 90% of the people who killed my G family. Even if all of them died, it would not be enough to eliminate the hatred in this old man's heart. You dared to kill people before, but now you want to admit defeat? Island Master, you are wrong. After all, only a small number of people killed. The majority of the people did not do anything. They also lost their lives because of this. Is it not enough? The volcanic old woman could not help but say, "The two of you are also trash. You are 100 years old, but you have only cultivated to the 5th grotto heaven realm. If it were this old man, I would not say a word." The white-bearded old man suddenly sneered. "Our G family would rather kill 10,000 by mistake than let one go. Didn't Jing tell you? Humph, as expected. A crooked stick will have a crooked shadow. I thought that kid was relying on the G family's prestige to commit all outrages. I did not expect all of this was all because of you, old thing. So he was killed by you." Suddenly, a cold voice rang out from the Blackwater Lake, reaching everyone's ears. Especially the G family's people heard it. Everyone was dumbfounded. At this time, shouldn't he choose to beg for mercy and admit his mistake? Ling Shao, this fellow! How dare he provoke the G family's family head like this? They didn't understand, but Ling Shao knew exactly what he was doing. From the conversation between the two elders of Volcano and the white-bearded old man, he could already tell. The G family of the Sacred Dynasty Island was a bunch of trash. A bunch of trash who only knew how to use their power to oppress others. "Who are you?" The white-bearded old man surprisingly did not fly off the handle, probably because he encountered too many brats who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. "Ling Shao." At this time, Ling Shao did not hide his name anymore. There was no need to. The G family's people definitely knew his identity. There was no point in hiding. The one who killed Ji Ing, that arrogant fool. Of course. Also the one who discovered the Blackwater Lake. Ling Shao said coolly, "So it's you." The white-bearded old man's pupils constricted abruptly. Then he actually burst into laughter. Ha 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 ha, wearing out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find it without any effort. "Huang Tian, I'll leave this person to you to deal with." Ji Huang Tian nodded his head, then stepped forward. This was his second time facing Ling Shao. The previous time, he just casually waved a palm and broke Ling Zhao's fire dragon sword domain. Moreover, it was the fire dragon sword domain when Ling Shao used the power of a human king. This time he looked at Ling Shao. His aura was domineering and ferocious. He was like an emperor standing upright, and even heaven and earth had to listen to his orders. "Ji Huang Tian." Ling Shao narrowed his eyes and sneered. In his eyes, the so-called geniuses were not intimidating at all. After all, the only thing a genius was stronger than an ordinary person was their talent. Their cultivation was not considered too powerful. For example, the difference in strength between Ji Huangtian and the Ji family island master was huge. Ling Shao did not even give face to the white-bearded old man, so why would he be afraid of a so-called genius like Ji Huangtian? However, unlike him, the rest of the people were a little afraid when they saw Ji Huangtian. This terrifying genius, who was ranked second on the Dragon Phoenix list, could only be compared to the everlasting joy Celestial Islands monster. The rest of the people under the age of 30 were inferior to him. When he was 15 years old, Ji Huangtian obtained the first place on the Dragon Phoenix list, and then traveled to the White Tiger continent. Unfortunately, when he returned, there were many young experts on the Sky Dragon and Divine Phoenix continents because of the appearance of the mountain river martial soul. There was even a monster from the everlasting joy Celestial Island who defeated him in the end, making him second. If it was someone else, they would have been unable to recover from the setback. However, Ji Huangtian did not sink because of this. On the contrary, After he awakened his martial soul, he traveled to the White Tiger continent again until he was summoned back by his family. No one knew how strong he was. Although he was still ranked second on the Dragon Phoenix list, there were more and more guesses about him. After all, when he lost to the monster from the Everlasting Joy Celestial Island, he had not awakened his martial soul yet. That monster already had a very powerful martial soul. Many people felt that he was probably more terrifying than the monster from the Everlasting Joy Celestial Island now. It's simple if you want to live. No matter who it is, if you can take one of my attacks and not die, you can leave. His arrogant words caused everyone to quieten down. Everyone was pondering whether this was an opportunity or a disaster. In the end, almost everyone shook their heads, because they did not have the confidence to survive Ji Huangtian's attack. Even if it was just one move, it was impossible. No one was willing to take the risk. If they couldn't take it, they would die. If they could, they would definitely be seriously injured. For a group of unrelated people, was it really worth it? Brother Huangtian, they are all innocent. Can you let them go? At this moment, Ji Mingming spoke. Ji Huangtian looked at the girl coldly and suddenly reached out. He grabbed at the air, and Ji Mingming was pulled onto the flywheel ship. Ling Xiao did not stop him, because he knew that Ji Mingming would not be in danger now. What's so difficult about taking one of your attacks? Do you really think that you are invincible? In the crowd, the volcanic old man stood out. This old man is already so old. Death is nothing to be regretted. I only hope that if I am lucky enough to survive, everyone from the Ji family can keep their promise. This old man, Ling Xiao looked at the old man and could not help but feel a strong admiration in his heart. Chapter 1442. It took a lot of courage for the volcanic old man to stand out in such a dangerous situation. After all, this old man was only at the 5th Grotto Heaven realm. He wasn't strong enough to face Ji Huangtian. Volcanic old man, don't be impulsive, Ling Xiao advised. He didn't think that the volcanic old man could survive one move from Ji Huangtian. Don't try to persuade me. I've lived for a long time. Just like what they said, if I can't break through to the Yin-Yang realm in my lifetime, I won't be able to live for long. Before I die, I might as well do something for everyone. The volcanic old man shook his head and said, I just hope that if I die, little brother Ling can help me take care of my wife. Her aptitude is better than mine. It's very possible for her to break through to the Yin-Yang realm. Stubborn old man, what nonsense are you talking about? If you die, I won't live either. The volcanic old woman cried and shouted. Don't talk nonsense. The volcanic old man looked up at Ji Huangtian and said, Come. Ji Huangtian looked at the volcanic old man expressionlessly. He didn't have the slightest sympathy or pity. Since the old man wanted to die, he wouldn't be merciful. One palm. It was just a light palm. No matter what the volcanic old man did, it was meaningless. His heart was shattered, and he slowly fell to the ground. You're really too strong. The volcanic old man was no longer breathing. The only words he left before he died were these 5 words. Too strong. Ji Huangtian was too strong. Looks like none of you can block a single move from me. Since that's the case, then I won't be polite. It's just that I really don't like killing ants like you. Commit suicide and die with dignity. That's better than anything else. Ji Huangtian said indifferently. He didn't even bother to kill. Are you sure he's dead? Ling Xiao smiled disdainfully and walked towards the volcanic old man. However, a shattered heart wasn't completely hopeless for a Grotto Heaven realm martial artist. The problem was whether there was such a powerful alchemist. Thin threads appeared in Ling Xiao's hand. They were like natural silk and then pierced into the old man's body. If someone could see the situation inside the volcano old man's body, they would see that the threads were stitching the old man's shattered heart back together. In the end, it was restored. Ling Xiao took out another pill from his storage ring and fed it to the old man. It's useless. No matter what you do, it's useless. Unless it's Medicine King Sunbu, no one on these 3 continents can save a martial artist with a shattered heart. Ji Huangtian gently shook his head. He didn't believe that the volcano elder could be revived. Ling Xiao didn't care what he said. After that, he pointed at the volcano elder's forehead and channeled his immortal battle will into him. Immortal and indestructible, endlessly growing and multiplying. This was the essence of the immortal sword intent. It could be used to kill and prevent the enemy from recovering. It could also be used to save people, allowing their wounds to heal and reignite the flame of life. Cough, cough. A moment later, a cough startled everyone. The martial artists on Ling Xiao's side were all crying tears of joy. If the volcano elder was revived, it meant that they didn't have to die. The volcano elder was also dumbfounded. Then she became incomparably excited and hugged her family's old man. He's really a god. Someone in the crowd sighed. Yeah, I think I've heard the name Ling Xiao before. I think he's the Heavenly Emperor of the Heavenly Empire. That's right. Not only that, he caused quite a ruckus in the Divine Phoenix Empire's capital. I think he was the champion of the alchemy conference in the City of Sin. Now that it was mentioned, many people seemed to be familiar with the name Ling Xiao. It was just that they couldn't connect that legendary figure with the young man in front of them. No wonder his medical skills are so superb. In the City of Sin, he defeated Medicine King Sun Sa's most prized disciple, Ji Luoyu, and even defeated the sea race's heavenly ocean pearl, redeeming our continent's reputation. But to be able to revive someone from the dead, this is still a little unbelievable. He's too powerful. No matter if it was praise or surprise, these martial artists were speaking very casually. Because the volcano elder didn't die, they didn't have to die. How could they not be happy and relaxed? I admire you for saving him, but it's meaningless. At this moment, Ji Huangtian's words made them feel like they were in an ice cellar. Meaningless? Why? Ling Xiao asked. It's very simple. It was you who saved him, not him who blocked my attack. Ji Huangtian said indifferently. Ha! I didn't expect the genius ranked second on the Dragon Phoenix list to be a trash that doesn't keep his words. Ling Xiao sneered in disdain. In the previous agreement, it didn't state how I blocked your attack. It's too degrading to go back on my words now. Presumptuous! How dare you speak to young master Huangtian like that? Do you want to die? The people around Ji Huangtian roared. Of course I want to live, but you guys won't let me. Therefore, it doesn't matter what I do. Just don't regret it. Ling Xiao's lips curled into a sneer. His master, Yuan Venerate, had already broken the array formation set up by the Ji family and even ingeniously made use of the array formation to set up a short-distance teleportation array. As long as the teleportation array was set up successfully, these over 1,000 people would be able to escape easily. Regret? I'll make you regret it now. Ji Huangtian sneered and waved his hand. The Ji family's experts were already getting restless. If the people of the giant whale sect joined the fray, the escaping martial artists would have nowhere to run. Don't you think the dignified Ji family of the Sacred Dynasty's Immortal Island is going overboard by making things difficult for some innocent martial artists? Suddenly, a feminine voice was heard from afar. Although this voice was very feminine, it was filled with a strong evil aura that made people feel very uncomfortable. Many people looked into the distance, but didn't see anyone. One had to know that the distance between martial artists was much greater than the average person's. This could only mean that the person speaking was really far away. Just the power of this voice transmission was enough to show how powerful this person was. The white-bearded old man frowned and said, "Old witch, what are you doing here? This is the Ji family's territory." Old witch? Everyone was guessing who this white-bearded old man, the old witch that the Ji family patriarch spoke of, was. After a long time, they got their answer. It was a luxuriously dressed upper-class lady. Her outfit was so large that it wasn't appropriate and wrapped her whole body inside. The airship that the upper-class lady was riding was very strange. It simply looked like a monster from ancient legends. Old fart, look at your wrinkled face. How am I old? I'm much younger than you, right? After the upper-class lady arrived, she smiled at the G family head as if she was very familiar with him. However, there was a hint of mockery in his words. Chapter 1443. To be inconsolable. Don't keep me in suspense. What are you here for? You actually brought so many people with you. Are you here to pick a fight with me? The white-bearded elder asked sternly. Hearing this name, Ling Xiao couldn't help but understand. It turned out that this sinister-looking lady was actually the island master of the Permitha Immortal Island, to be inconsolable. No wonder he felt that one of the people behind to be inconsolable looked so familiar. Wasn't that Zhongyu Permitha's brother, Zhongyu Huangquan? Enemies were really bound to meet on a narrow road. However, Zhongyu Huangquan didn't seem to notice him. He didn't even look at him. His eyes were fixed on Ji Huangtian. One must know that Zhongyu Huangquan was ranked 4th on the Dragon Phoenix list. He wasn't as good as Ji Huangtian. Therefore, he was always unconvinced and fearful of Ji Huangtian. As for Ling Xiao, Zhongyu Huangquan probably didn't care about him at all. He was probably more concerned about Cold Plum, who was beside Ling Xiao. This time the eruption of the black volcano, the disappearance of the immemorial golden crow, and the immemorial heavenly demon battle intent, the disappearance of Ji Chang's immortal sword, and the formation of the Blackwater Lake must have alarmed many people. The Sacred Dynasty's immortal island had spies from various major forces. To be inconsolable's arrival was one of the examples. The reason why she came early was probably because the Permitha Immortal Island was closer to the Sacred Dynasty's Immortal Island. Haha, Jirualong, I'm not in a hurry to pick a fight with you. I'm here today to uphold justice. To be inconsolable said with a smile. Uphold justice? That's the funniest joke I've ever heard. Ji Rualong said with disdain. Just say that you're here for the immemorial golden crow and the immemorial heavenly demon. Why do you have to be so hypocritical? From Ji Rualong's point of view, Ji Chang's immortal sword naturally belonged to the Ji clan, and no one else should even think about fighting for it. As for the primordial golden crow and the primordial heavenly demon, it might not be realistic for them to monopolize it, but they would have to fight for it eventually. As for the Blackwater Lake, although it was not bad, Ji Rualong did not think much of it. After all, it was a little small. If he knew that the Blackwater Lake was 10 times bigger, would he still think the same? Since you've seen through it, I won't hide it anymore. In the past, we've seen the corpses of the primordial golden crow and the primordial heavenly demon together. In the end, we decided to temporarily hand them over to the Sacred Dynasty's Immortal Island for protection. But those things belong to the 5 Immortal Island. Now that the black volcano has exploded, the immemorial golden crow and the immemorial heavenly demon are nowhere to be found. I suspect that the people of your G family are hiding. To be inconsolable said coldly, Bullshit! If this old man had hidden that thing, I wouldn't have come here to argue with these ants. Ji Rualong said in annoyance. To be inconsolable smiled and did not continue to be entangled with this issue. She believed that there would be more people coming. It was impossible for the Ji family to monopolize the primordial golden crow and the primordial heavenly demon. She turned to look at Ji Huangtian and laughed. What a handsome young man, but he's too domineering. He won't live for long. What a joke! Do you dare to let your disciple fight with my Huangtian here? Ji Rualong sneered. You old, which are not as good as this old man, and your disciple is not as good as my Huangtian. Your Permitha Immortal Island will forever be trampled under the feet of our Sacred Dynasty's Immortal Island. That might not be the case. To be inconsolable smiled and changed the topic. I heard him say that as long as someone can take one of his moves, he will let go of those people. How about this? Let my Huang Quan take one of his moves, and those people will belong to our Permitha Immortal Island. What do you think? The fourth on the Dragon Phoenix list would take on the second on the Dragon Phoenix list. This kind of battle was really exciting. Many cultivators had almost forgotten about the dangerous situation and couldn't help but be interested. Moreover, this battle might decide their life and death. How could they not be looking forward to it? At this moment, they no longer placed their hopes on Ling Xiao. After all, Ling Xiao's cultivation was too weak. Whether it was Ji Ruolong or to be inconsolable, they could crush him with one hand. Even Ji Huangtian and Huang Quan could easily kill Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao turned from a god in their hearts to trash in an instant. That was why some people were like this. When you were useful to them, they would put you on a pedestal. Once you were no longer useful to them, they would dislike you no matter how they looked at you. Of course, not everyone was like this. There were still more than 300 people who chose to stand beside Ling Xiao. They firmly believed that following Ling Xiao would allow them to leave. Ling Xiao took a look and remembered these people in his heart. At the same time, he removed the inscription mark on the other cultivators. Even if he could escape with thousands of cultivators, he had no interest in saving trash who didn't know how to be grateful. He was also looking forward to this battle between the geniuses. After all, he would become opponents with these people sooner or later. It would be easier to deal with them if he really encountered them in the future. Zhong Yu looked at Ji Huangtian, his battle intent surging. He always felt that he shouldn't be ranked fourth. He had the ability to fight for the first, second, and third place. Ji Huangtian glanced at Zhong Yu, Huang Quan indifferently, as if he didn't take it to heart. Perhaps in his eyes, there was only one person who was worthy of his attention. That was the monster from Last Joy Immortal Island, the one who ranked first on the Dragon Phoenix list. These two fellows are really troublesome. Ji Huangtian's attack just now has already proven his strength. He actually easily disintegrated my Fire Dragon Sword Realm. As for Zhongyu Huangquan, he's probably not weaker than Cold Plum, but he's only ranked fourth. What kind of monsters are on the Dragon Phoenix list? Ling Xiao couldn't help but shake his head, secretly. He was still far from it. However, this time he had obtained the immemorial Golden Crow, immemorial Heavenly Demon, and even the Immortal Sword. After returning, he should cultivate in peace for a period of time. His cultivation and strength would definitely improve qualitatively. Old witch, you're dreaming. Don't think that this old man is confused and doesn't know what you're scheming. You just want to get those people and get some information from them. Ji Ruolong sneered and said, Our Huangtian gave those people a chance to make a move, but you fake Huangquan naturally can't do that. After all, they're all top 10 geniuses on the Dragon Phoenix list. No matter what, you should come for Real. What do you mean by real? To be inconsolable asked. It's simple. Today's battle will be a fight to the death. Whoever dies, don't complain. Ji Ruolong said. Old witch, do you dare to let Zhongyu Huangquan try? Ji Ruolong made such a request because he had absolute confidence in Ji Huangtian. He knew that his grandson had this ability. He looked coldly at To Be Inconsolable and sneered in disdain. To be inconsolable, would she dare to have a fight to the death? Why wouldn't I dare? Before To Be Inconsolable could say anything, Zhongyu Huangquan stood out. Although he didn't know Ji Huangtian well, he was very confident in his own strength. So what if it was a fight to the death? He, Zhongyu Huangquan, wasn't afraid. Chapter 1444. Ha ha ha, young people really have guts. Good, very good. Hearing Zhongyu Huangquan's words, Ji Ruolong was stunned. He was obviously stunned by Zhongyu Huangquan's words. Deep in his heart, he didn't intend to let Ji Huangtian fight with his life, especially a genius like Zhongyu Huangquan. After all, even if he won, he would definitely suffer great losses. There was no benefit at all. He would also offend the Permitha Immortal Island for nothing. What was the point? He said that because he was sure that old witch to be inconsolable wouldn't take the risk. He wanted to let Ji Huangtian know that to be inconsolable would back off. However, he was sure that to be inconsolable would think, but he didn't know that young people nowadays weren't easy to deal with. No one was willing to submit. If Zhong Yu Huang Quan didn't dare to accept the challenge, wouldn't he be laughed at to death if word got out? If Ling Xiao was Zhong Yu Huang Quan, he would definitely accept the challenge. After all, the outcome was hard to predict. If he took the initiative to admit defeat, his martial path would completely collapse. Haha, old thing, you're old. You don't understand the thoughts of young people nowadays. To be inconsolable smiled and said, "The 5 immortal islands will be joining hands this time. So, let's forget about the life and death battle. It's not that we're afraid of you, but we don't want to be laughed at by those bastards from the White Tiger continent." Although she said it in a dignified manner, she actually didn't want Zhong Yu Huang Quan to take the risk. Zhong Yu Huang Quan's talent was the strongest in the Permitha Immortal Island, even more terrifying than him. He was also the best successor of the Permitha Immortal Island in the future. He also believed that Zhong Yu Huang Quan might not lose to Ji Huangtian. However, after a fight to the death, even if he won, he would definitely be seriously injured. There wouldn't be any benefits. These people were all smart. Only an idiot would do something that wasn't worth it. Hearing to be inconsolable's words, Zhong Yu Huang Quan seemed a little disappointed. However, he soon felt relieved. Ji Huangtian, during the Dragon and Phoenix election. The Dragon and Phoenix ranking list will be updated. At that time, we'll see who's stronger. Today, I'll listen to the Island Lord. Although Zhong Yu Huang Quan really wanted to fight with Ji Huangtian right now, to be inconsolable, he didn't dare to disobey. This woman had been strict with him since he was young, to the extent that he didn't even dare to say a word in front of this woman. He could only agree with her submissively. Ji Huangtian wasn't interested in this battle to begin with, so he naturally wouldn't be disappointed. The ones who were disappointed were those who had abandoned Ling Xiao and placed their hopes on Zhong Yu Huang Quan. At this moment, Ling Xiao did not have any sympathy for them. He deserved to die. "Old witch, you better hurry up and leave, lest our sacred dynasty Immortal Island and your Permitha Immortal Island damage the relationship. That would only make the people of the White Tiger continent happy." Ji Ruolong suddenly said, "Hee, I won't leave until I see the immemorial Golden Crow and the immemorial Divine Demon." To be inconsolable wasn't afraid of Ji Ruolong, and the Permitha Immortal Island wasn't afraid of the sacred dynasty Immortal Island. Although there were frequent battles between the 5 Immortal Islands, there had never been a real battle to the death. Even between the Blackwater Immortal Island and Lai Lulu Immortal Island, there had never been a real battle where both sides used their full strength. At most, it was a private grudge and some assassinations. The people of the Ji family didn't look too good. To be inconsolable, Ji family wasn't leaving. She clearly didn't believe in their Ji family and didn't put them in her eyes. To be inconsolable. Ji Ruolong stared at the upper-class woman and said coldly, "You have to think clearly. You weren't my match in the battle back then. If we really fall out today, once we fight, you still won't be able to do it. Hee, if you didn't mention what happened back then, I would have forgotten. If it wasn't for Ji Furing's guidance, would you have won against me? What a pity. Ji Furing is a heroic genius, but he made such a despicable and shameless friend like you. His daughter's disappearance has something to do with you, right?" To be inconsolable sneered. She wasn't afraid of Ji Ruolong at all. It seemed that she had come prepared today. Impudent. Ji Ruolong didn't want others to mention what happened back then. He was afraid that Ji Furing would snatch his position as the island master, so he was eager to drive Ji Furing away. Now that he thought about it, if Ji Furing and Yu Xianyue were still around, Their sacred dynasty Immortal Island would have unified the 5 Immortal Islands and would definitely be more powerful than today. He released a terrifying pressure and forced it toward to be inconsolable. The atmosphere suddenly became tense, as if a terrifying battle could break out at any time. Ling Xiao sighed in his heart. This was called immortals get hurt when immortals fight. Now it seemed that there was a conflict over there, but no matter which side it was, they could easily kill everyone on their side. The difference in strength was too great. They didn't even have the leeway to bargain and could only be sold like goods. This feeling was very unpleasant, but Ling Xiao planned to remember it firmly, because this feeling would let him remember the humiliation and do better in the future, to cultivate even harder. Hee, we're all friends. Why is there a need to kill each other? There's no need for that. Suddenly, hearty laughter came from afar. Another group of people had arrived, and this group of people was actually formed by martial artists from the Black Crow Empire. The Black Crow Empire was actually one step ahead of the Divine Phoenix Empire. Even the queen of the Black Crow Empire had arrived. Behind her, other than Tomohiko Kuma, who lost to Ling Xiao on the battlefield back then, the rest were actually all Grotto Heaven realm martial artists. This lineup was not small at all. These years, the Black Crow Empire had been supported by a major force in the White Tiger continent and developed rapidly. They had long broken away from the control of the Blackwater Immortal Island, and now their overall strength was probably not inferior to any force in the 5 Immortal Island. Because of this, the Raven Queen dared to come here to fight for the 2 treasures of the primordial Golden Crow and the primordial Heavenly Demon. Now, in the entire Sky Dragon continent and Divine Phoenix continent, the strongest 5 Immortal Island and 2 great empires, 3 forces had already arrived, and the rest were probably still on their way. Ling Xiao couldn't help but frown. He had a grudge with the Ji family of the Immortal Island because he killed Ji Ying and seriously injured Nan Sha. He also had a grudge with the Permethai Immortal Island because he killed the Sword Demon. He also had a grudge with the Black Crow Empire because he killed Timur Mutu and almost killed Tomohiko Kuma. The 3 forces that had arrived now actually had a deep grudge with him. The Raven Queen of the Black Crow Empire rarely showed her face. This time, she must have come to the sacred dynasty Immortal Island for the treasures. She probably wouldn't leave until she obtained something. Ling Xiao couldn't help but sigh. The treasures that these powerful forces were fighting for were actually in his body. He didn't dare to expose this point, or else he might lose his life. Raven Queen, Shilin Dyer? Ji Ruolong frowned and said, "Isn't the Black Crow Empire a subsidiary force of the Blackwater Immortal Island? What qualifications do you have to fight with us for the treasures?" Chapter 1445. That's right. Little Crow, leave obediently. This isn't a place where you can get involved. To be inconsolable frowned and said, although the Black Crow Empire rose quickly, the 5 Immortal Island never regarded the Black Crow Empire and the Divine Phoenix Empire as equals. In their eyes, only the 5 Immortal Island could be on equal footing. Raven Queen didn't care about such contempt. She came here today to prove herself and the Black Crow Empire. Her gaze suddenly fell on Ling Xiao, and a noble and cold smile appeared on her face. It won't be too late to discuss the matter of the immemorial Golden Crow and the immemorial Devil after everyone is here. Right now, we can settle another matter first. Raven Queen's meaning was clear. Blackwater Immortal Island, Everlasting Joy Immortal Island, Divine Phoenix Empire, and Canopy Immortal Island would all come. There might even be 7 Martial Grandmaster Island coming to join in the fun. Therefore, she didn't fight for the immemorial Golden Crow or the immemorial Devil now. She could take advantage of the situation later. But now, she wanted to do something else. Settle what? Ji Ruolong asked. Kill Ling Xiao. Raven Queen looked coldly at Ling Xiao on the ground and said coldly, "This person killed my Empire State teacher, Timur Mutu, and captured my son, Tomohiko Kuma. If I don't take revenge, I won't be able to establish my might. Ling Xiao, to be inconsolable, didn't pay attention to the young man on the ground. But when she heard Raven Queen's words, she looked back at Zhongyu Huang Quan and asked, "Is he really Ling Xiao?" Reporting to Island Master, he is indeed. Zhongyu Huang Quan also just noticed Ling Xiao's existence. His gaze was fixed on Ji Huangtian. Good. Ha ha ha. Good, good, good. This kid killed a genius disciple of my Permitha Immortal Island, Sword Devil. He truly deserves to die. However, Little Crow, can you let us kill him? To be inconsolable, she sneered. Wait, this person's life belongs to our sacred dynasty's immortal island. Ji Ruolong suddenly said. What? This kid even offended your sacred dynasty's immortal island? To be inconsolable, she looked at Ji Ruolong in surprise. She was indeed a little surprised. Just where did this kid come from? He defended the sacred dynasty's immortal island, the Permitha Immortal Island, and the Black Crow Empire at the same time. Wasn't he a little too awesome? Naturally, my grandson, Jiying, was killed by him just now. My capable subordinate, Nan Sha, was also injured by him. Let this old man give you a piece of advice. It's best that you don't underestimate this brat. His moves are strange and not to be trifled with, Ji Ruolong said coldly. At this time, the remaining martial artists of the three major forces, as well as those who were being stared at like lambs waiting to be slaughtered, were all dumbfounded. The three major forces actually wanted Ling Xiao's life. Should they say that this Ling Xiao was really unlucky? Or was he too good at causing trouble? In the Divine Phoenix continent, if any of the forces of the Sacred Dynasty's Immortal Island, the Permitha Immortal Island, or the Black Crow Empire wanted someone dead, then that person would basically have a hard time living to the next day. Ling Xiao, this guy, had offended all three major forces at the same time. It was likely that he really wouldn't be able to leave this place. So he's really Ling Xiao, the famous Celestial Emperor of the Celestial Empire, the unparalleled young hero. After Ji Mengmeng confirmed Ling Xiao's identity, his eyes actually revealed a crazy worship. This child probably also had a very strong rebellious mentality, so he really admired Ling Xiao, who dared to challenge the powerful. However, today could Ling Xiao still be alive? Father, please save him. Ji Mengmeng looked at her father, the patriarch of the Ji family's second branch. It's useless. No one can save someone who has been targeted by your grandfather. Moreover, he actually offended your grandfather to be inconsolable and a Raven Queen at the same time. This is really too daring. Ji Mingming's father looked to be a very weak person. His face was pale, and there was a trace of cowardice in his voice. However, his words received the approval of the majority of the crowd. Ling Xiao was really going to die today. Everyone, you've all seen it. Now that they all want my life, do you still intend to stand with me? What shocked everyone again was that this guy Ling Xiao actually didn't have any intention of begging for mercy or running away. Instead, he turned around to look at the 300 people behind him and asked. Finally, there were still over 100 people who chose to leave hesitantly. There were still 120 people left. Brother Ling, although we may not be able to help you much, if there's a need, we'll definitely do our best. That's right, little brother. You saved this old man's life. Even if this old man dies, I'll still help you. At this time, the volcanic elder had just woken up not long ago and his injuries hadn't healed. However, he felt that he couldn't leave Ling Xiao in the lurch. Even if he had to sacrifice his old life, he had to give it his all. You don't have to care about anything. When the battle starts later, all of you retreat in that direction. The further you retreat, the better. Ling Xiao didn't want unfamiliar people to interfere in his battle, because that would affect his performance. Moreover, among the remaining 100 or so martial artists, the volcanic elder was the strongest. However, if she dared to make a move, the three major forces would probably be able to kill her easily. There was no point in making a move. After speaking, Ling Shao turned around to look at the three experts standing in the air. He couldn't help but sneer, and first locked his gaze on the Raven Queen. Timur Mutu and Tomohiko Kuma led an army to attack my divine Phoenix Empire. On the battlefield, when two armies fight, how could there be no deaths? If there's anyone to blame it on Timur Mutu being too useless and Tomohiko Kuma being too trashy. Otherwise, the one to die wouldn't be them, but me. Now you say you want revenge. The dignified queen of the Black Crow Empire, someone who has lived for over 100 years, actually shamelessly wants to seek revenge from me, a 17-year-old youth, and even speak so righteously. Don't you have any shame? When everyone heard this, they sucked in a breath of cold air again. Was Ling Shao, this brat, planning to go all out? Facing the aggressive Raven Queen, he actually dared to speak like this. Who gave him the guts? Just as they were thinking, Ling Shao looked at to be inconsolable again and sneered. And you, old witch Jingjue, your disciple sword demon, killed my subordinates and subjects for no reason. Then he barged into Qingshu College, killed my teacher, and even wanted to kill me. Let me ask, what should I do? Choose to forgive him? Or kneel there and be killed by him? What's even more laughable is that your daughter, Zhong Yu, actually used a slave contract to control that sword demon in an attempt to protect him. But she was still killed by me. Compared to Tomohiko Kuma, this guy is trash to the extreme. Moreover, he's incomparably despicable. Speaking of which, Sword Demon was killed by your precious daughter. If you want revenge, the one you should look for is your precious daughter. These words were simply merciless. To be inconsolable was so angry that her face was cloudy and uncertain. She didn't understand what this brat relied on to actually dare to scold her like this. So even though she was angry, she didn't dare to make a move. Chapter 1446. Ling Shao didn't care about what to be inconsolable thought. Finally, he looked at Ji Ruolong and said, "Old thing, you're even more shameless. Someone killed your family's cultivators, but wanted to drag me down with them. You even got your grandson Jiying to bring experts from the giant whale sect to kill me. Hee, your grandson is known as a genius, but in my eyes he's just a good-for-nothing who was killed by me in one move. Now you want to take revenge on me? Don't forget, when everyone wanted to kill your granddaughter Ji Mengmeng, it was me who protected her and even fought a 5th Grotto Heaven Realm cultivator to the death. Not only should you not blame me, you should thank me instead. A dignified senior, yet you don't have the demeanor of a senior at all. How disgusting. Damn, this guy is too awesome. He's really not afraid of death. He actually dared to go against the patriarchs of the 3 major forces. It's not that he's not afraid of death, but that no matter what, he's going to die anyway. There's nothing wrong with him doing this. At least he can die with some dignity. Yeah, if he begs for mercy cowardly, then he'll be despised." The crowd discussed animatedly. At this moment, 3 powerful auras came from afar. The people from the Divine Phoenix Empire and the Everlasting Joy Immortal Island are here. There are even people from the Sky Canopy Immortal Island. The Sky Canopy Immortal Island usually doesn't care about worldly affairs. Why are they so active this time? The person leading the people from the Divine Phoenix Empire wasn't the Emperor Fengming Fuyang, but the ancestor of the Ice Phoenix clan. It seemed like they also wanted the Primordial Devil and Primordial Golden Crow very much. The most surprising thing was that the dean of Qingshu College, Zhou Yin, came with this ancestor. This was probably arranged by Feng Yinshan. "Good fellow, you want to kill him. What are you planning to do? Ling Shao is our Divine Phoenix Empire's Heavenly Dragon King. Even if he deserves to die, it should be done by our Divine Phoenix Empire. When was it your turn to judge him?" The first thing the ancestor of the Ice Phoenix clan said when he arrived was to help Ling Shao. Ling Shao was stunned for a moment before he understood. He, Ling Xiao, had killed Timur Mutu and captured Tomohiko Kuma alive for the sake of Divine Phoenix Empire. If this old ancestor really allowed him to be killed by others, then he would not have the face to show others in the future. That's right. Ling Xiao is a student of our Qingshu College. That day, the sword demon caused trouble in our Qingshu College. He killed him to protect the safety of our college. If you want to touch him, you'll have to ask for my permission first. Zhou Yin also spoke. Ha ha ha, Ling Xiao saved this old man's life. This old man will definitely not watch as you kill him. Patriarch Everlasting Joy of the Everlasting Joy Immortal Island spoke as well. This time, a lot of people were confused. Just what kind of person was Ling Xiao to be able to obtain the protection of so many experts? Wasn't this guy too strong? Canopy Immortal Island also chose to protect Ling Xiao. If the people of Everlasting Joy Immortal Island and Divine Phoenix Empire chose to protect Ling Xiao, it would be understandable. However, Canopy Immortal Island's decision was a little puzzling. Could it be that Canopy Immortal Island was actually related to Ling Xiao in some way? Perhaps seeing that everyone was puzzled, Zhu Tianlin of Canopy Immortal Island stood out and said indifferently, "Perhaps young hero Ling Xiao doesn't know that he unintentionally saved my daughter's life. This old man is never willing to apologize to others. Today you want to kill Ling Xiao? Definitely not." Although Ling Xiao had offended a lot of people, he had also helped a lot of people at the same time. Therefore, in times of danger, although many people wanted to take his life, there were also many people who wanted to protect him at the same time. The current situation was extremely complicated. If something went wrong, Ling Xiao would cause a terrifying massacre between the major forces. This was not something that everyone wanted to see. Even if it's you, don't tell me you want to stop us from taking revenge. Ji Ruolong was simply filled with anger. On his own sacred dynasty Immortal Island, he wanted to avenge his grandson, but he was actually stopped by others. How could this not make him angry? It's fine to kill him, but you old things can't do it. Don't tell me that the three major forces don't have any capable young experts. Why do you old things have to do it? The Ice Phoenix clan ancestor said with a smile. This move of his was actually quite vicious. Not only did it protect Ling Xiao, it also gave the three major forces a way to kill Ling Xiao. Of course, there was a way, but it depended on whether the young experts of the three major forces had the ability to do so. All right, we'll do as you say. Ji Ruolong also knew that in this way, even Zhou Yin, the Everlasting Joy ancestor, and Zhu Tianlin would not be able to intervene. The children and grandchildren of our Ji clan are all outstanding geniuses. Isn't it very simple to kill Ling Xiao? Although he said so, he was calculating in his heart. Ling Xiao had killed Jiying, which meant that he was stronger than Jiying. He had even seriously injured Nan Sha just now, so he was probably stronger than Nan Sha. Even if the Ji clan was full of talents, there were really not many who could be stronger than Nan Sha. Therefore, he turned his head to look at the Raven Queen and said with a smile, "You're the first to propose to kill Ling Xiao, so let your people do it. Let us see how powerful the 7 kills of the Black Crow Empire are." This old guy was very cunning. The Raven Queen came relatively late and did not have a clear enough understanding of Ling Xiao's strength, so she would definitely be more conceited. Therefore, she would definitely not decline. As expected, the Raven Queen did not disappoint Ji Ruolong. Without turning her head, she asked indifferently, "Who wants to make this contribution for the Empire?" "Mother, let your son do it and completely wash away the stain of the past." Tomohiko Kuma was the first to stand up. In the past, he had lost all face because of Ling Xiao. Now that his cultivation had reached the large success stage, his strength was much stronger than before. In addition, his master, Timur Mutu, had left him a martial arts secret manual. He was confident that today he would definitely not repeat the same mistake. Your Highness, he's just a lowly commoner. If you really want to make a move, then you're thinking too highly of him. Moreover, you can't snatch this contribution from us, right? The one who stood up was the 7th kill of the Black Crow Empire. This person's cultivation was basically equivalent to the 7th phoenix of the Divine Phoenix Empire. But he might be a little weaker. After all, that guy from Phoenix, cry was really not simple. Ji Yan, leave it to him. First, take a good look and see how much your former enemy has grown. The Raven Queen did not want her son to take any risks. She did not know Ling Xiao very well, but after gathering all the information from various aspects, she felt that this kid was probably not simple. Therefore, it was better to let the 7th kill have a try first. Thank you, Your Highness. The 7th kill showed an excited expression. This person was dressed in black and held a huge axe in his hand. His muscles were very exaggerated. At first glance, it was obvious that this guy should be a strength-type guy. After speaking, the 7th kill did not waste any time and directly chopped down at Ling Xiao with a huge axe in his hand. It was simple and clean to the extreme. Chapter 1447. The 7th malefic star roared and leapt into the air. A deep pit appeared under his feet and the ground shook. His sturdy muscles were exposed and filled with explosive power. The giant axe in his hand chopped down at Ling Xiao's head. He was like a ferocious beast. Die, kid! In the air, the 7th malefic star spat out a few words with a ferocious expression. Ling Xiao looked up at the 7th malefic star. He felt like a giant bear swinging a giant axe at him. Every movement was filled with explosive power and deterrence. He was like a grotto heaven beast. He's so strong and he's so fast. How terrifying. Everyone stared at this big guy, and they were all shocked. Logically speaking, the stronger one's body was, the slower one's movements should be. But the 7th malefic star had completely overturned everyone's expectations. His body was huge, but his movements were nimble and free. It was simply stunning. Good. Ling Xiao sneered and swung the sword of light obliteration to meet the attack. In terms of strength, Ling Xiao would not lose to anyone in the Grotto Heaven realm. Although the primordial golden dragon in his body was temporarily sealed, his countless cells had long awakened the terrifying power of the dragon. When his strength erupted, even he was afraid of himself. The sword of light annihilation did not evade, but directly met the giant axe with a clean and efficient strike. Clatter! The giant axe and the giant sword collided. Countless cracks appeared in the space. Then, the two of them were locked in a stalemate in the air. Kid, your strength is not bad. The 7th malefic star was clearly surprised that someone could compete with him in strength. This surprised and excited him, but it's useless. As his voice fell, the 7th malefic star's body rapidly changed. His original human appearance was now reduced to 10 to 20%. His body was still close to that of a human. His entire body was clearly like a giant goat, standing upright. At this moment, Ling Xiao could clearly feel that the power from the giant axe had become even more terrifying. The goat clan. Ling Xiao had seen the elephant clan, the bear clan, the human clan, and the divine phoenix clan, but he had never seen a goat clan warrior. This was the first time he had encountered such a situation. As the power of the giant axe increased, the pair of huge horns on the 7th malefic star's head suddenly changed and stabbed towards Ling Xiao's head. Danger! The martial artists who were looking forward to Ling Xiao being able to continue defeating each enemy were all taken aback when they saw this scene. After all, this attack was too sudden. Even if it was Ling Xiao, would he be able to dodge it? One had to know that both sides were competing in strength. If Ling Xiao wanted to block the attack of the goat horn, his strength would inevitably weaken, and it was very likely that he would be killed by the opponent. The fourth light profound, godly light travel. No one could describe how fast Ling Xiao was. When everyone thought that he couldn't dodge, his body suddenly turned into a white light and retreated dozens of meters. Kacha! Rumble! The goat horns stabbed into the ground, and the giant axe also chopped down. A crack was split open in the ground. This crack actually spread rapidly, approaching Ling Xiao, still full of terrifying attack power. This series of attacks really made people admire the seventh malefic star's strength. His speed wasn't as fast as Ling Xiao, but his attacks were linked together. If the first attack failed, the next attack would immediately follow. He didn't give Ling Xiao the slightest chance to breathe. Break! Ling Xiao stabbed the light destruction, soared into the ground, and finally shattered the terrifying force. Even so, the scattered energy had left a few scars on his wrist. Although these scars were very small and faint, they almost didn't cause any substantial damage to him. However, such a terrifying attack still left many people astonished. If the seventh malefic star was already so terrifying, then how strong were the other six? The Black Crow Empire had received the support of a major force on the White Tiger continent in recent years. Its development was really rapid, and people couldn't help but be vigilant. The Raven Queen's lips curled into a sneer, and her face was filled with pride and barbarian. The seventh malefic star was extraordinarily talented, and there were remnants of the demon race's bloodline in his body. Ever since his bloodline awakened, he became very powerful and terrifying. In the Black Crow Empire, many warriors would rather challenge the sixth and fifth malefic stars than fight with the seventh malefic star. It wasn't that the seventh malefic star was stronger than the other two, but this guy's fighting style was completely coarse and sharp like a wild beast. Whoever fought with him wouldn't have a good ending. Now, the seventh malefic star's cultivation was at the fifth Grotto Heaven realm. It didn't sound very strong, but ordinary sixth Grotto Heaven realm warriors wouldn't be able to last more than a few moves in front of him. This guy's physical quality was too terrifying. In time, he might even be able to step into the top 10 of the Dragon Phoenix list. Ha ha ha, I thought you were very powerful, kid. You can kill the Imperial Advisor? You must have used some underhanded means. Today, I'll tear you to pieces and avenge the Imperial Advisor. Let's see what other tricks you can use. It should be said that in the initial exchange he completely suppressed Ling Xiao, so his pride was not without reason. Once again he brandished the giant axe in his hand, his body leaning forward. The muscles on his two legs suddenly tensed up, as if he was about to shoot out directly. Boom! The next moment, the ground under his feet completely split open, and his body also flew out. Using the terrifying muscle strength of his two legs, his speed almost rose to the limits of what he could achieve. It was even faster than Ling Xiao's flash, light, godly travel. His figure flashed, a fierce wind raged, and the water and sand along the way were all swept up. The seventh malefic star seemed to have turned into a massive tornado, charging fiercely at Ling Xiao. Before he arrived, a terrifying pressure already sealed off any direction Ling Xiao attempted to dodge. What a guy! Fortunately, my cultivation broke through to the fourth Grotto Heaven realm before. Otherwise, I really would have fallen at this guy's hands. Unfortunately, the duration of the human monarch's power is getting shorter and shorter. I used it to deal with Nan Sha just now, and it's already exhausted. Now, I can only rely on my own abilities to deal with him. Fortunately, I haven't used my full strength yet. Ling Xiao really admired this seventh malefic star. This guy's strength was really much stronger than the 8th, 9th, and 10th Phoenix Sons he met in the Divine Phoenix Empire. Those few pieces of trash would probably be killed in one move if they met this guy. From this, it could be seen that the so-called 10 Phoenix Sons of the Divine Phoenix Empire had probably been wasted by that idiot Feng Mingliang. The true experts were probably all in the morality courtyard. Since he couldn't dodge, Ling Xiao didn't plan on dodging. At that moment, a red sun appeared behind him. Then the fire dragon's sword domain that was shattered by Ji Huangtian formed again. Fire dragons wandered in the void, completely surrounding his body. Chapter 1448. Within the fire dragon's sword domain, those small fire dragons were clearly streaks of sword energy, but because of the dragon sword art, they had mutated. Not only did they maintain the sword energy's original power, but they also had a fiery burning effect. Combined with the divine sword of light, their power was naturally even greater. What's that? His paradise domain? Why do I feel a bit of the dragon sword art as aura? Ji Ruolong looked at Ling Xiao's fire dragon sword domain and frowned. Although he felt that it had the aura of the dragon sword art, he couldn't be certain. Dragon bind. Ling Xiao stared at the charging seventh malignant star and spat out those words coldly. Then countless fire dragons danced in the air and charged its seventh malignant star. One of the fire dragons crashed into seventh malignant star's body and shattered, but it quickly regenerated and stuck to seventh malignant star's body. A second one, a third one, the dense fire dragon sword Qi completely tied up seventh malefic star, which was charging over. Seventh malefic star's speed suddenly decreased, and his charge came to a halt. Funeral! Another voice rang out from Ling Xiao's mouth. A series of explosions sounded from seventh malignant star's body, causing one's heart to tremble. Kill! Ling Xiao didn't think that this funeral would be able to kill seventh malignant star, so he immediately wielded the sword of light obliteration and shot out, stabbing towards seventh malignant star's throat. No matter how strong his opponent's body was, the throat was always a weak point. As long as he pierced it, he would die without a doubt. Roar! A monstrous roar suddenly sounded, and with seventh malignant star as the center, terrifying elemental energy ripples erupted. One fire dragon after another shattered. Even Ling Xiao was blocked outside of the attack range, unable to continue forward. That terrifying roar was probably a special martial art. Combined with his innate bloodline power, it was truly terrifying. Ha 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 ha. Interesting, very interesting. I didn't expect you to have such tricks up your sleeves. Looks like I'll be able to properly warm up today. Seventh malignant star shook his body, other than some charred areas on his clothes. His entire body seemed to be unharmed. This guy's defensive power was truly terrifying. Do you think you are the only one with a grotto heaven domain? The seventh malefic star sneered. Around him, a pitch-black curtain of darkness descended. In that instant, Ling Xiao felt a strong pressure pressing down on him, almost bending his body. Then the elemental domain energy in his body was being consumed continuously. Demonic domain. The seventh fiend stated the name of his grotto heaven domain. This kind of terrifying domain could actually continuously exhaust the opponent's domain essence energy, and even suppress the opponent's performance. It could not be said that it was not terrifying. At the same time, a huge goat demon phantom appeared behind him. This huge goat demon was crimson and was 4 or 5 meters tall. It held a huge scythe in its hand and stared at Ling Xiao with bloodshot eyes. Its intense killing intent had already fused with the killing intent of the seventh fiend. Do you still have a chance of winning now? The seventh fiend sneered and shouted, "Martial soul fusion!" At that moment, the martial soul behind him disappeared and fused into his body. And his body also became incomparably huge in that instant. His originally 2-meter-tall figure had now grown to 4 or 5 meters. The huge axe in his hand had also become a huge scythe. It glowed with a blood-red light. It was very strange. When he looked up at his opponent, it was as if he were looking at a small mountain. However, Ling Xiao's gaze was still calm. Roar! Roaring again, the huge seventh fiend leaned forward again. The muscles in his legs tensed, but this time they were even more powerful and majestic than before. Before his body could rush out, Huge cracks began to appear on the ground. Boom! Like a terrifying storm, it suddenly shot out. In just an instant, that huge, blood-red sickle had already completely covered Ling Xiao. Die, despicable human! A huge body, a terrifying killing intent, and a cold voice. If this scythe touched Ling Xiao's body would definitely be split in two. Even if he didn't die, he wouldn't be far from it. You really make me very excited. Ling Xiao's body trembled. He had met so many 5th Grotto Heaven realm martial artists, but this was the one that really made him excited. Too strong. However, the stronger his opponent was, the more excited he became. This was because every time he broke through and became stronger, it was after a difficult battle. Burn, Fire Dragon, Sword Domain. Ling Xiao didn't retreat. The Fire Dragon Sword Domain suddenly burned wildly, and the Scarlet Sun behind him also crazily absorbed the Scarlet Sun power in the sky. Fuse! The Fire Dragon Sword Domain and the Sword of Annihilation completely fused together. A huge fire dragon formed in Ling Xiao's hand, and then it roared and pounced towards the 7th fiend. As it pounced, it spat out flames from its mouth. The 7th fiend was actually forced to stop his attack by the balls of Fire Dragon. Once again, his attack was stopped by Ling Xiao. He was very angry, but at the same time excited. If it was too easy to kill his opponent, then it would be too boring. The more trouble Ling Xiao could cause, the greater the sense of accomplishment in killing Ling Xiao. At this time, Ling Xiao's body was completely bathed in a scarlet gold light. The Scarlet Sun behind him had completely turned scarlet gold. The rising sun transformation had turned into the ardent sun transformation. The sunlight was even more dazzling, and its power was even more ferocious. The absorption of the Scarlet Sun power also became faster. What kind of martial arts is this guy cultivating? How can he directly absorb the Scarlet Sun power? He's only a 4th Grotto Heaven realm martial artist. This kid must have some secret on him. So what if he has a secret? No matter how strong he is, he won't survive. Against the 7th fiend, he has no chance. Those who supported Ling Xiao and those who opposed Ling Xiao argued. However, no one could convince the other, because the battle was still going on. Looking at the way the battle was going, no one would know the result until the last moment. Ling Xiao's martial arts were terrifying. However, the 7th fiend's bloodline and martial soul were even more terrifying. Break for me! The 7th fiend, who had been forced to stop by the fire dragon, roared and slashed out dozens of times with the blood-red scythe in his hand. The fire dragon was cut into pieces, and in the end, it collapsed and turned into little sparks. Let's see what you can do. The 7th fiend sneered and pounced on Ling Xiao again. He was just as fast. Ling Xiao just looked at the 7th fiend indifferently and muttered to himself, "It seems that the Ardent Sun transformation can't deal with this guy. I have to continue increasing my power." Ardent Sun transformation. Boom! In that instant, the red sun behind Ling Xiao grew even larger, from its original reddish-gold color to a crimson red. Moreover, it was at least 10 times larger than before. Cracks appeared on the terrifying red fireball, as if it was a red sun that was about to explode. Chapter 1449. At that moment, the fire dragon, which had been shattered, reformed once again. Moreover, the color of the fire dragon had turned crimson. The light was even brighter than before. It can become stronger? Is the crimson sun behind him a martial soul? It's hard to say. It should be a martial soul or a part of a martial soul. Otherwise, how could he absorb the power of the crimson sun and transform it into a power that he can use? This is incredible. Ji Ruolong, Zhou Yun, Zhu Tianlin to be inconsolable, and the other experts were shocked. They were considered the top experts of the previous 2 continents, but they had never seen such a martial soul or such a cultivation technique. A celestial martial soul was not something that mortals could possess. It was said that only those guys from the immortal court continent had such a terrifying martial soul. Ling Xiao could actually possess such a terrifying martial art and martial soul. This guy must have some secrets that others did not know about. The huge crimson, divine dragon reformed once again. It raised its crimson head and looked down on all living beings. Dragon of destruction, wrath of the sun. Ling Xiao roared in the void and slashed at the seventh malefic star with both hands. The huge crimson divine dragon pounced at the seventh malefic star at the same time. When the crimson divine dragon soared, the surrounding air was filled with a strong burnt smell. The blazing power was crazily released. What an overbearing move, but it's useless. The seventh malefic star looked serious. The huge crimson scythe actually started to spin in his strange giant hand, and it was getting faster and faster. Then a gust of wind turned into a huge beast and pounced on the crimson divine dragon. The beast was constantly torn apart. However, as the gust of wind continued to gather, the number of beasts seemed to never end. They kept delaying the crimson divine dragon's attack. Sparks flew everywhere. The fireballs that fell to the ground were like meteorites that weighed dozens of kilograms. The surrounding warriors were so frightened that they all moved away. This was not a battle between a fourth Grotto Heaven Realm warrior and a fifth Grotto Heaven Realm warrior. Such a battle scene should belong to a battle between the top 20 warriors on the Dragon Phoenix list. It was too shocking and dazzling. It was so terrifying that it made people tremble. The red dragon seemed to have run out of energy and returned to Ling Xiao's hand, transforming into a giant sword. However, the seventh fiend's aura was still so powerful that it was suffocating. It was as if he would never tire. Your tricks are over. What else do you have that can block my attacks? A victorious smile appeared on the seventh Bane's face. This caused many of Ling Xiao's supporters to grumble inwardly. This was simply an unfair battle. In terms of cultivation, the seventh malefic star was higher than Ling Xiao. Furthermore, the seventh malefic star had both the power of his bloodline and his martial soul. It wasn't easy for Ling Xiao to hold on until now. It was almost impossible for him to escape unscathed from the seventh fiend's attack. I don't know where your confidence comes from. Just now, who was the one who said that he could easily kill me? But now, we've been fighting for a quarter of an hour, and you haven't even touched my clothes. My attacks have at least injured you, although it's only a light injury. Ling Xiao's expression was still calm. This caused many people to be puzzled. In the face of such a ferocious seventh malefic star, what exactly did he rely on to remain so calm? Could it be that he still had some tricks up his sleeve? If you don't accept it, I'll beat you until you do. The seventh malefic star was very unhappy with Ling Xiao's stubbornness. He decided to completely crush Ling Xiao with an unstoppable momentum and make this lowly human submit to him. However, Ling Xiao only looked at him indifferently. Sword Spirit's Eye, Immortal Sword. The Immortal Sword was a sword stronger than the Sword of Slaughter and Sword of Destruction. Fuse. The Immortal Sword fused with the Divine Sword of Light. Immortal Sword of Light, Stormy Sun Change. Ling Xiao's voice was still very calm. However, his moves were incomparably brilliant. The Stormy Sun Change was a special phenomenon that occurred when the Scarlet Sun was about to collapse. The last of its energy was completely released because it was about to die. This kind of transformation, although the temporary combat power was very strong, but the ability to sustain it was very problematic. Therefore, it was blocked by the seventh malefic star just now. However, this time, the combination of the Stormy Sun Change and the Immortal Sword of Light was completely different. The Immortal Sword would multiply endlessly and never be destroyed. His battle strength could be maintained crazily. Ling Xiao's incomparably terrifying domain of origin energy could also be completely used continuously. When the sword was drawn, it transformed into a dragon. It was also a dragon, but it was green in color. The second style of the dragon's sword technique Green dragon, indestructible, nourishes all things. Ling Xiao's sword domain had also completely turned green, as if it had endless vitality. Everyone stared at the green dragon, their eyes filled with incomparable surprise. This was formed by a sword light, but the strange thing was that one could not feel the sharp sword light and killing intent. However, even if there was no killing intent, it made one feel a kind of innate uneasiness and fear. This sword actually had the terrifying concept of indestructibility. Ji Ruolong was, of course, the most excited. Seeing this scene, he was sure that the immortal sword intent left behind by his ancestor, Ji Chang, must have been taken away by Ling Xiao. But why did this immortal sword intent feel so weak? He thought that he understood, thought that he was sure, but he was confused again. Could it be that this kid had comprehended the same sword intent because of the immortal sword intent? Was his talent actually so outstanding? Ji Ruolong was really unwilling to believe his own judgment. Could Ling Xiao's comprehension have surpassed his grandson Ji Huangtian? After all, even Ji Huangtian had not been recognized by the immortal sword intent. He was thinking and puzzling. On the other side, the seventh malefic star felt a terrifying sword intent, as if it was going to break through his body and dismember his meridians. He did not understand. Ling Xiao was clearly only a martial artist at the fourth Grotto Heaven realm. Where did he hide such a huge power in his body that could actually exceed his expectations time and time again? Such a dazzling attack. He actually felt a huge pressure. Roar! The dignity of the heavenly demon bloodline made him unable to accept this kind of humiliation. He roared, and the blood-red scythe in his hand collided with the turquoise divine dragon. In an instant, the shadow of a giant sword appeared behind Ling Xiao, but it disappeared in a flash. Under the cover of the crimson sun's sunlight, no one noticed. But Ling Xiao felt it. When he used the immortal sword, the powerful immortal sword intent sealed in his body actually stirred. He forcibly extracted a part of its power and integrated it into the attack. In that instant, the power of the attack increased exponentially. Oh no! The Raven Queen saw the horror of this attack. Unfortunately, as the Queen of the Black Crow Empire, she really could not bring herself to help the seventh malefic star. Moreover, if she did, those who wanted to help Ling Xiao, standing next to her, would definitely not let it go. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.